வணக்கம், மாலை வணக்கம், காலை வணக்கம். Good morning and good evening to everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome everyone for in this second World Conference on Peace and Conflict Resolution. இரண்டாவது உலக அமைதி மற்றும் சச்சரவு தீர்வுகளுக்கான இணையவழி மாநாட்டில் கலந்து கொள்ள வந்திருக்கும் உங்கள் அனைவரையும் அன்புடன் வரவேற்கின்றேன். On behalf of Madras Development Society and Sattakada Tamil Law Journal, we are very happy to conduct this conference second time. Last year, in 2020, through virtual, we organized this conference in the event of Mahatma Gandhi 150th year and Nelson Mandela centenary celebration. That is why we started this project last year, because of a special year. Last year centenary and 150th year for two important world leaders to work for peace and conflict resolution. You know all very well, Indian freedom we got through independence through peaceful manner. That because of Mahatma Gandhi. Similarly, in South Africa, because of Nelson Mandela, they got an independence, peaceful manner. Even though a lot of infights and everything, not for கத்தியின்றி ரத்தமின்றி யுத்தம் ஒன்று வருகிறது என்ற தமிழ் சொல்லுக்கு இணங்க, without bloodshed, we got an independence in India as well as in South Africa. That is why we name it in the conference in the name of two important world heroes. Not only that, because of we taken Mahatma Gandhi is a natural because of our Indian father of India, and we taken up for the Nelson Mandela because of, you know very well all, more than 1 million Tamils are living in Durban. Outside of India, more than 1 million Tamils are living only in Durban. So, in 1994, Mr. Nelson Mandela told, everyone will get a citizenship. Tamils are my brothers and sisters. Indians are my supporters. Like that he mentioned. That is why we taken two leaders' name for this conference, and we conducted last year very successfully. We given award for Ms. Navi Pillai, the senior most law officer as well as judge as well as the human rights activist, and she hold High Commissioner of Human Rights, High Commission of United Nations, and also judge of the International Criminal Court of Justice, and also judge of the Supreme Court of South Africa, like many other posts. We given an individual award for her. Institutional award we given for Austrian Peace Studies Institute in Vienna. This year also we selected similarly two awardees. Number one, the award is Mrs. Ila Gandhi, granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi. Not only that, we selected award for institutional award, Kensha State University from USA. Because Rajakumari will read a citation later. Now I am very happy to welcome the Honorable Minister, Mr. Raghupati. He is a senior most politician, minister in Tamilnadu. He served as a Minister of Housing in Tamilnadu state government, and also he served as a environmental minister, home minister in the government of India, New Delhi, as a state minister. Now he is holding a portfolio of law minister, and he is a lawyer. He involved a lot of public and social and educational activities. He is very close to us, is always helping to us, is always supporting to us. I am very happy to welcome Mr. Raghupati, Honorable Minister of Law from Government of Tamil Nadu. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Then I am very happy to welcome Honorable Justice S. Bhaskaran, Chairman of the Tamil Nadu Human Rights Commission. He served as the Judge of the Madras High Court. Not only that, he served in many other positions, District Judge and many other activities. He participated in many of our functions and presented a paper and the chair of the session. Now is chairing our conference today. Welcome, Honorable Justice Bhaskaran. And the prominent speakers from all over the world attending today. I am very happy to welcome Honorable Dr. Justice Vimala, member of State Law Commission of Tamil Nadu. She is a very academic-oriented judge. She got a doctorate also in law. She served in different capacities, the Registrar of Madras High Court, then Judge of the Madras High Court, District Judge of the different parts of Tamil Nadu, many other posts. She delivered a speech in different topics in different conferences of Madras Development Society and Sattakadir. I am very happy to welcome Madam Justice, Dr. Justice S. Vimala. Then I am very happy to welcome Dr. Kanda Yemkala. He served as the Director General of UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization from Vienna, then Under Secretary General of Sustainable Development in the United Nations in New York, and now is sitting Member of Parliament from Sri Lanka. He is an agricultural economist. He studied in the University of Chicago. He got an honorary doctorate from University of Madras. He is very close to our Chennai. I am very happy to welcome Dr. Kanda Yemkala, one of the senior most international civil servant, and also he served in different capacity of United Nations. Welcome, sir. Now I am very happy to welcome Dr. Joseph Book, Director, School of Conflict Management and Peace Building, Kansas State University, USA. Dr. Joseph Book presenting a paper today on US issues. I do not know personally, I never met him, but I spoke to him a few times and also I exchanged some of the emails. Mr. Parthiban Shanmugam recommended his name, and also I gone through his profile and gone through his department profile. Then I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Joseph to present his paper and also to take up his department institutional award today. Welcome, Dr. Joseph. Now I am very happy to welcome Dr. Mukesh Kapila, one of the senior most personality in global health and humanitarian affairs. He served in a special representative to United Nations in Sudan and many other places. He is an academician as well as a public speaker and involved in social, political, economical and humanitarian affairs from around the world. Now he is a professor in Manchester University in UK. Welcome, Dr. Mukesh Kapila. I am very happy to welcome Dr. Jabamali Vinayarachi. He is a close friend of us. He served in principal advisor to the Director General of UNIDO, Vienna. He was a lecturer in the Loyola College in Chennai. He served in different capacities. He is a public speaker. He traveled more than 100 countries. He is always close to us. He is always participating in many of our conferences. I am very happy to welcome Mr. Jabamali Virayaraj. Now I am very happy to welcome Mr. D. Saravanan, advocate and member of the Tamil Nadu Bar Council and also chairman of the Central Law College, Salem. Mr. Saravanan is an upcoming advocate, upcoming speaker. He is presenting a paper in different conference. He is always supporting to Sattakadir. Now he is recently included as an editorial board member of Sattakadir. His father also very close to us. His father is my professor in law college. He was supporting in different capacities for the past 30 years. Now Mr. Saravanan also supporting time to time for Sattakadir functioning. I am very happy to welcome Mr. Saravanan. You will get a doctor very soon because I am getting a word doctor and many times when I am calling you. Welcome Mr. Saravanan. I am very happy to welcome Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam. I know her for the past 30 years from Chennai as well as in Australia. She is always conducting many seminars, workshops in Sydney. Both are in the same boat. She is also lawyer, I am also lawyer. She is also conducting a function, I am also conducting a function. She is also doing a lot of Tamil service, I am also doing a lot of Tamil service. She is also supporting many people, I am also supporting many people. So both are the same thing. Chandrika can help to our Sattakadir as well as Madras developers in a great level. She is sitting in Australia. She can get a lot of funds and also can divert to us for to conduct many other shows. She is also present in today's paper. I am very happy to welcome Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam. Welcome, Dr. Chandrika. Now I am very happy to welcome Mr. Parthiban Shanmugam. He is always telling to me, you can put international lawyer. I always tell, where is a term also international lawyer? I told there is you can, only one reason I can put international lawyer, because you studied law in Chennai and you enrolled as a lawyer in Chennai. As well as you studied in law in America, you enrolled in America. So you are automatically international lawyer. I can happy to put as international lawyer. He is always supporting us. He is talking to almost every day about various activities. He is giving suggestions and many things. Even though my junior for a long time, he is always doing many things good to society. He is active participants and a writer in his Facebook. He is producing documentary films and short films and feature films time to time. He is doing multivarious activities. Even though he is a lawyer, he is doing other activities also. I am very happy to welcome Mr. Parthiban Shanmugam. Now I am very happy to welcome Dr. Vijaya Lakshmi, Assistant Professor of Ambedkar Law University in Chennai. She is a very active speaker. She given a paper last year. She is always top on presenting his paper. She is giving details whenever he is presenting a paper. I am very happy to welcome Vijaya Lakshmi. You are humble and also good and also expert on subject. Welcome, Vijaya Lakshmi. Now I am very happy to welcome Adi Lakshmi Adi Lakshmi Logamurthy, I think. Logamurthy. You are a very wonderful person. You are conducting a law conference, law meetings and law seminars to useful for all young lawyers and young advocates to go for judicial appointments and expertise their knowledge. You are supporting time to time. We give an award for you for Sattakadir Mamani Award. You are eligible for many things. You are excellent on various subjects. You are down to earth to support people. You are always come forward to support the activities. You came to my office personally and discussed about this conference. You told you want to give a speech. I do not time to include your name in the invitation. Last minute we changed the invitation and included your name. I told you can present a paper on matrimonial issues. I am requesting you present a paper. I am very happy to welcome Miss Adi Lakshmi. Adi Lakshmi is always excellence on various things. I am very happy to welcome the great lawyer and promoter of the legal education, Adi Lakshmi. Welcome, Adi Lakshmi. Now I am very happy to welcome Prem Rajakumari, studied in Madras School of Excellence Law and also for Jindal Law University. She got a gold medal and also she is very good preparing reports and arguing cases and also presenting papers and talking in English and many other things. I am always admire about her activities. I invited her to involve our activities from time to time and also to present a paper from time to time. and we adopted her as one of the office bearer in many of the associations. Welcome, Rajakumari. You are extraordinary talent. You will be judge one day. Welcome, welcome. I am welcoming everyone about this August get-togethering. Today I saw Mr. Vidudalai, the former Advocate General, senior advocate, and the president of the law wing of the DMK party, sitting and watching our program, and many other VIPs there and all over the world. I am very happy to welcome one and all. This conference is a fashion and pride for me to conduct. You know very well, all over the world, facing lot of issues about peace and conflict matter. You know very well about India-Pakistan conflict on Kashmir, India-China war on border dispute, Sri Lanka, Tamils and Sinhalese on various human rights and bifurcation of the country issue. Similarly in Sudan, similarly in Syria, in Turkish, then in Afghanistan, in many other countries. Afghanistan, you know very well, more than 30 to 40 years, people facing problem and different rulers ruled and finally now taken in charge for the Taliban. I do not know how many days or months and a year this government goes peacefully. I am very happy to know at least to settle one government. The world countries should recognize and bring world peace through that things. Not only that, about the international issues, now India facing multifacial issues about the religious matter, then caste issues and personal matter like matrimonial cases and countries, arbitration, mediation, negotiation in different courts and High Court and Supreme Court, many things. So this is a vast subject to discuss from time to time. That is why we want to build up this matter. In Western countries, every university have a peace and conflict resolution department and giving a license for the individuals for 6 months training, then automatically they can go and take open an office and negotiate and mediate the things. In India, in Tamilnadu, many other places, Katta Panchayat going on. Katta Panchayat, if you get a license, it will be legalized. That legalization should be take a formal education in Western countries to give a Katta Panchayat things. Here is a Katta Panchayat going on in different yacht level, creating land and problem, many other things. So to regularize even Indian government to take initiative to Katta Panchayat training program in the name of the conflict resolution, peace and mediation and other things. I am very happy to welcome everyone because of this is a wonderful day to discuss about various things. Because of today's United Nations 76th day, UN started for the reason to bring world peace. I do not know, there are 5 big countries sitting, not allowing anybody inside. I know very well the India, Germany, South Africa, Brazil, many other countries now, including Japan, is eligible to part of Security Council. If you take more countries Security Council, then one will be the real functioning will go on. Otherwise, they can give power to supersede the Security Council, the General Assembly to take a call from time to time to discuss about the Security Council, rejecting the issues, may discuss in the General Assembly. Like that, they must change some of the UN rules and regulations and set up very soon. But fast 20 years discussing and not to come to conclusion. India is trying to get a Security Council membership, unable to get a membership at all. Another thing, India should take a lead to start some of the international institutions in India. You know very well Japan is taking for UN University. In Vienna is having a few offices in Vienna, some of the offices in Geneva, some of the offices in Nairobi, in headquarters in New York, like that. The Delhi or Chennai or Hyderabad or Bangalore or Ahmedabad or Calcutta or any one of the city to select the UN city, and particularly Chennai is the best place to start and have an international headquarters some of the activities. and build for the UN activities more actively. India should part of the many other international institutions more actively and also to give more funds. Then only they can dominate in UN activities. So then only India can get a Security Council membership. That is why today we chosen to conduct this conference of UN Day. I am very happy to inform all the information to you. I do not have more time to discuss because others should speak. I am welcoming one and all. Thank you. And also the many people supporting this conference. I am very happy to request government of Tamil Nadu to support our activities and give funds from time to time and do our activities. We are very much involved in doing for these activities and bringing Tamil as a court language and many other things. So Honorable Minister can help this without any hesitation. Thank you, Honorable Minister, to hear this conference. Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Day-to-day life. They have brought about many a conflict to conclusive. These are some of the random thoughts which I wanted to share with the audience present in the virtual conference. And I am sure that the other intellectuals who are present here for delivering the address would enlighten the audience much more to enable us to have a conflict-free, peaceful atmosphere, which would act as a fertile ground for an all-round inclusive economic growth to make our state and the country as the numero uno in the world. I once again thank the organizers for providing a platform to share my thoughts in this intellectual gathering through virtual conference on international peace and conflict resolution. Thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. You given a wonderful and a detailed speech on peace and conflict resolution. I have one public request through this virtual conference because of many of the Western universities and European universities have a department called Department of Peace and Conflict Resolution. We request the Honorable Minister to issue a necessary direction to the Ambedkar Law University to start a Department of Peace and Conflict Resolution to study for a master program and PhD program through our university. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now I am requesting the Honorable Justice Bhaskaran, Chairperson of the Tamil Nadu State Human Rights Commission, to deliver the presidential address.
Good evening and warm greetings to all the participants in the conference. As I'm audible,
Yes, sir.
am I audible?
Yes, sir. Very much.
Good evening and warm greetings to all the speakers and participants.
Yes.
The respected and most admired Honorable Minister of Law, Mr. Raghupati, the speakers, the organizer of the function, Mr. S.R. Sambat,
Please cooperate with us. Okay.
Organizer Mr. Sambat, and other guests. It's my pleasure and privilege to address you on this happy occasion. As we begin the conference on peace and conflict, it immediately strikes one's mind that these terms peace and conflict are being discussed from time immemorial. Not only that, these are two sides of the same coin and shall remain so as long as the human life exists in this planet. Then why are we discussing it? That too at an international level. As this idea had not been discussed earlier, the empathetic answer would be yes. And the human race has spared its time and resources on these aspects without a break. Conflicts arose from time immemorial. when doubt arose in the mind of Eve to consume the Satan's apple, and the ways and means to resolve the issues that follow are still being discussed. As I said earlier, why are we discussing it? The issue of peace and resolution of conflict, at that too at international level, the same is answered by Albert Einstein. I quote, "The importance of securing international peace was recognized by the really great men of former generations. But the technical advance of our time have turned the ethical postulate into a matter of life and death for civilized mankind today, and made the talking of an active planet in the solution to the problem of peace a moral duty which no consented man can shirk." I unquote. We human beings claim to be evolved from time to time through science, but they have only added to our woes, and to mitigate the situation, we have been involving ourselves continuously in resolving the conflicts that had arisen as a consequence of our so-called developments. This takes us to the irresistible conclusion that if we begin with the need to survive, we immediately see that peace is primary requirement of the human being. I would like to quote our former DGP, Mr. Pratap Philip, who said, "Peace gives greater pleasure than either pleasure or treasure." You can live your life with 4 letters. Live a life of love. That is 4 letters. I would like to quote our former President Abdul Kalam, who said, "Only when each and every citizen has been empowered so that he can lead a fulfilled life with dignity will there be national peace and prosperity." Then the question will arise as to what is peace. Peace is the happiness, justice, health, and other human ideas, something that every person and culture claims to desire, but which few, if few can actively achieve, at least on an enduring basis. But why are they elusive and infallible? Perhaps peace is different from happiness in the way that it requires social harmony, whereas happiness appears largely to be an individual matter. Similarly, peace has got a positive and also negative connotation in the way it is delivered. For example, on the positive side, it may be defined as freedom from civil clamor and confusion, a state of public quiet, a state of security, etc. On the other hand, it can be termed as absence of war. Peace, as all of you know, is the basic requirement for any society to live a harmonious life. As all of us know, as the organizer of the function mentioned in his welcome address, we are celebrating the International Day today. The Charter of the UN says that the organization was founded to save the world, the people from the scourge of war. Tragically, even after UN was formed, there are about 250 armed conflicts which occurred across the world. Further, sustainable development is possible only when there is peaceful coexistence. Some of the primary targets which has to be achieved to get peace across the world is reduction of arms flow, reducing the crime, organized crime, as well as significantly reducing all forms of violence organized by gangsters. Even today, we had seen the papers that a Colombia drug trafficking lord was arrested, and the capture involved about 200 army men and 25 helicopters. That's the kind of conflict, there's a kind of crime being done by even individuals. So to establish peace so that the society can progress, so that the world can enjoy the fruits of development, we have to take steps to reduce the conflict. How the conflict can be reduced? What are the mechanisms? If it's an individual, then it can be done by negotiations, by talks. But if it comes to nations, then it has to be necessarily by organizations. And this conflict resolving is a lifelong process, and it has evolved from time immemorial. Even in Ramayana, the diplomacy, the art of diplomacy, art of talking was done by Hanuman and Vibhishan. The other epic, Mahabharata, mentions about negotiation skills of Sanjaya and Lord Krishna. Our Tamil literature, Purananoru, mentions about that great Tamil poet Avayar, preventing the war between Tondaman and Adiyaman through diplomatic channels. However, the issue have to be resolved based on negotiations through communications and also reliable approaches as needed on occasions. As I said earlier, it is time for everyone, every individual, as individual makes of the society, to take steps to see that people live in peace. Steps are taken to resolve conflicts by way of negotiations, following, as I said, there are examples from time immemorial, so that anything can be solved, anything can be sorted out by talks without resorting to violence or war. So hopefully this conference will work out, will pave the way for people to think about the ways and means to improve the negotiating skills, improve the dialogue between nations, so that there will be less conflict, there will be less war, there will be less aggression, and there will be more peace, and people will be able to enjoy the fruits of development in all fields. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity to chair the meeting and also to address an august audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Justice. You given a detailed presidential address about various issues. Now I am requesting Dr. Kanda Yamkala, the former Under Secretary General and also Member of Parliament for Sri Lanka. He wants to go very urgently, so that's why I'm just changing the queue. I'm requesting Dr. Kanda Yamkala to deliver his speech. Is there? Dr. Kanda Yamkala, I saw in the beginning, but 5:30 of Indian time, there is there. Dr. Kanda Yamkala. Anyway, if I come again, I will call you. Now I am requesting Prem Rajakumari to read the awardees. 2 awardees today is getting an award for the International Conference Award in the name of Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela International Award for Peace and Conflict Resolution. First individual awards goes to Mrs. Ila Gandhi, the prominent social worker and peace worker from South Africa. She is a granddaughter of the Mahatma Gandhi. She is getting an award for this year. Last year, we given for this award to Miss Navi Pillai, former High Commissioner for United Nations High Commission of Human Rights. This year, we selected Madam Mrs. Ila Gandhi as the International Peace and Conflict Resolution Award. This award will be conferred after the Corona, the colorful function in Chennai or in South Africa. I am inviting Rajakumari to read out her profile for the audience. Thank you, Rajakumari.
Very good evening to one and all.
Yeah.
We are happy to announce the Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela International Award to Miss Ila Gandhi. Ms. Ila Gandhi, the granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi, is a peace activist and was a member of parliament in South Africa for 10 years from 1994 to 2004. Ms. Gandhi's parliamentary committee assignments included welfare, public enterprises committees, as well as the ad hoc committee on surrogate motherhood. She worked as a social worker with the Verulam Child and Family Welfare Society for 15 years and the Durban Indian Child and Family Welfare Society for 5 years. An anti-apartheid activist from an early age, Ms. Gandhi was banned in 1975 from political activism and was subjected to house arrest for 9 years. Despite these obstacles, she continued to work toward an end to the unjust social practice. She also assisted in helping South Africa transition to a post-apartheid state of normalcy by being an active member of the Transitional Executive Committee in the South African government. Ms. Gandhi chairs the Mahatma Gandhi Salt March Committee and the Mahatma Gandhi Development Trust. Ms. Ila Gandhi has also served as the Chancellor of Durban University of Technology for several years. Her political affiliations include the Natal Indian Congress, which she served as Vice President, the United Democratic Front, DESCOM Crisis Network, and the Inanda Support Committee. She was an alternate member of the Justice Committee and served on Theme Committee 5 on Judiciary and Legal Systems. Ms. Gandhi served as an executive member of the Natal Organizations of Women from its inception until 1991. She was among the members of the United Democratic Front who met Ms. Nelson Mandela prior to his release from Portsmouth Prison on February 11, 1990. Prior to the 1994 elections, Ms. Gandhi was a member of the Transitional Executive Committee. After serving in Parliament, Ms. Ila Gandhi developed a 24-hour program against domestic violence, founded the Gandhi Development Trust, and serves as a member of the Religious Affairs Committee and oversees a monthly newspaper as well. For her extraordinary accomplishments, the Madras Development Society is honoring Ms. Ila Gandhi with the award title Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela International Award for Peace and Conflict Resolution. Thank you.
A wonderful profile, because she's having a lot of things. Government of India also honored her internationally. She's a renowned personality. It is a great pride and privilege for us to offer for this award to her. So I think the Mr. Loginayed is there. Mrs. Ila Gandhi unable to join today to say a few words. She told she will send someone to talk on behalf of her. Probably the Mr. Loginayed is expecting any moment. In the meantime, I'm requesting another award. We are offering for the institutional award for the School of Peace and Conflict Resolution, Kansas State University from USA. Please read that profile, Rajakumari.
The School of Conflict Management, Peace Building and Development at Kennesaw State University, Georgia, United States of America offers several courses in conflict management, alternative dispute resolution services, and workshops, and a doctorate program in international conflict management. There are three main entities that come under the umbrella of the School of Conflict Management, Peace Building and Development at Kennesaw University. First is the Center for Conflict Management. Over 4,000 people have participated in the center's initiative since 1996 by creating culturally sensitive programming, leading research projects, and conducting conflict management training programs. The center has had a positive impact on both domestically as well as internationally. Second is the Master of Science in Conflict Management, which is a 16-month modular cohort-based program emphasizing the intersection of theory, research, and practice. Since its inception in 2000, the program has graduated more than 250 students who have professional roles ranging from the court systems in Georgia to foreign diplomatic posts. Third is a PhD in International Conflict Management. The program, launched in 2010, is a full-time interdisciplinary in-residence degree designed to meet the global demand for scholar practitioners and is the only one of its kind in the Southeast. The graduated scholars are working in universities, governments, and non-governmental organizations around the globe. The core strength of the school is that they're engaged in real-world problems, from supporting the work of the Georgia Commission on Dispute Resolution, training professionals in courts, assisting businesses with generational succession, contributing to programs of nonprofits, supporting governments in policy design, and conducting research and program evaluation on critical global problems. In view of the institution's contribution to conflict management and peace building, and as an encouraging initiative to provide global education to Asian students, we have identified the School of Conflict Management, Peace Building and Development at Kennesaw State University, Georgia, USA, for the institutional award titled Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela International Award for Peace and Conflict Resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajakumari. Now I am requesting the director of the school is there with us because he is one of the speaker. Before delivering his speech, I am requesting the director to say a few words about the accepting this award as a reply speech. I am requesting Joe Book to give a speech on replying about this award. Sir, unmute your mic, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, you can give a speech, sir.
Yes. I, on behalf of the school, I want to thank you for your kind gesture and your affirmation of our efforts. We are delighted to be receiving this award, and it means a lot to us. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now I am requesting, now because of, you know very well, Australia is a time, is now 10 of, more than, I think 10:30 or 11 o'clock. That is why we are giving a first priority for Australian speaker, Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam. She's giving a cultural mediation, her speech. She will be delivering her speech for 15 minutes. I'm requesting Chandrika Subramaniam, attorney from Sydney. Yes, Sir Chandrika.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sampath.
Okay.
Honorable Minister for Law, Honorable Justices who are present here, and Madras Development Society for giving me this wonderful opportunity to talk about cultural challenges in mediation. Globalization has opened up new avenues in the arena of dispute resolution process. Despite this being a growth area, a little focus has been paid to conflicts of culture when compared to the other issues. With my experience in conflict resolution procedures, I have learned that it is necessary to approach an unresolved issue by viewing its holistic dimension in general and cultural dimension in particular. Mediation aims to become an ideal forum for the resolution of disputes between parties from different jurisdictions and many times from different cultures. However, the challenge that comes with the diversified culture is inherent in the process. Unless the participants understand and embrace this diversity, the full potential of the process will not be unraveled. The cultural differences among participants in mediation, combined with the lack of satisfactory resolutions, raises two significant questions about the effectiveness of mediation in situations involving cultural diversity. First, how do cultural differences among mediation participants, disputants, mediators, and interpreters impact the effectiveness of mediation? Secondly, how might these differences be taken into account to maximize the effectiveness of mediation? Let's view 3 points concerning culture. First, that culture affects people's values, beliefs, perceptions, and behaviors. Second, that both individual and cultural differences contribute to the differences in values, beliefs, perceptions, and behaviors. And third, the degree of interculturalness in a continuum rather than a dichotomy. In addition, I will not forget to include subcultures. An individual may also belong to numerous subcultures, each contributing to that individual's cultural identity and thought process. Lack of cultural understanding and or neglecting sensitivity to the cultural diversity will become a major hurdle in mediation. When mediators fail to understand the basics of these before commencing their venture with the assumption and belief that human values and their impact operate in similarity to their own culture of the other participants. In a multicultural country like India or elsewhere like Australia, With an increasingly well-connected global community, language and culture play a predominant role in social landscape. What is culture? The term culture is used to describe the values, languages, religious beliefs, social habits, and communication codes of a group of people. Through shared experience over time, members of a cultural group learn about acceptable ways to behave and appropriate means of communicating their needs and beliefs. Culture is not static, but adapts over time and accustomed to changing circumstances. The concept of culture itself is complex in nature, encompassing multiple disciplines. Therefore, it is automatically implies that there is bound to be a difference in opinions and possibility of conflict. Culture plays a predominant role in forming opinions and influencing actions following such opinions. At the same time, cultural differences in forming opinions and deciding actions will lead to a conflict of culture as a part of the process. Culture and communication are inseparable because culture not only dictates who talks with whom about what and how the communication proceeds, it also helps to determine how people encode messages, the inherent meanings of those messages, and the conditions and circumstances. Culture and communication speaks linguistically. Culture includes verbal and non-verbal signals in communication. Without explicit statements, a person can convey a great deal about their personal comfort and attitudes, their analysis of the respective statuses of their person, their willingness to negotiate or accommodate, and their views about another party's remark. This information potentially has a powerful influence on relationship and is helpful for mediators to understand. Language is a powerful tool, no doubt. Formality and technicality of the language differ. Language also reflects values and social structures which can vary enormously across culture. Example, English has a single word to address a second person subject, you, whereas many Asian languages have multiple alternatives, the choice being dependent on the level of respect, difference, and the familiarity a speaker wants to show to their addressee. The other areas which impact mediations are religion, gender conflicts, celebrations, festivals, holidays, and many more. Cultural issues can also affect the power balance between the parties in the substantive dispute at a mediation. Some power imbalances may be impossible to address through mediation. It is helpful if the mediator is at least aware of how any inquiry might affect the dispute. Basic skills for mediators should therefore include able to identify situations where cross-cultural differences pose a potential barrier to a dispute resolution, able to assess how such differences affect the balance of power between the parties, and consider in each case whether it is appropriate to take any steps to manage cross-cultural differences between or before or after problems arise. The competency of a mediator is measured by the strong skills in facilitating communication. This is part of the process of creating and nurturing a dispute resolution atmosphere in which parties feel respected and comfortable to speak, carefully listen, and confidently respond. If not, critical nuances of meaning can be missed and lead to a breakdown in understanding. While one party's demonstration of respect and appropriate social etiquette in his own culture can be a gross insult to the other party's culture, misunderstandings will escalate conflict and create loss of trust, damage feelings, or aggravate anger, all potentially detrimental to the mediation process. A mediator who lacks an understanding of this linguistic phenomenon risks mistakenly concluding that the parties have agreed on an issue that remains a major source of contention. Choice of co-mediators is possible with cultural background can be a suggestion to consider. However, this may create the risk that mediator will find themselves pushed into siding with cultural groups they represent by repeatedly having to explain that group's conduct. To isolate culture as the primary source of difference between the parties when there may be many layers could be limiting. Power differences and cultural imbalances are other additional hindrance in the arbitration process. whereas there are aggravating factors escalating the issues of disputes due to cross-cultural differences in the mediation process. Flexible procedures may be adapted to resolve the differences. Communicating across culture is a very challenging in mediation process. Understanding the culture and appropriate communication needs to be paid attention to future mediation related education and training programs. If it is necessary to include cultural awareness and cultural competency in the professional development programs in the field of mediation to avoid culturally ignorant participation. Cultural ignorance is also related with other terms such as cultural awareness, cultural conflict, cultural acceptance, cultural sensitivity, cultural tolerance as well. With this note, I once again thank you, Madras Development Society and Dr. Sampath for this wonderful opportunity and all the participants who were able to listen to my speech today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrika. Even though you were late night in your place, you've given a wonderful and detailed speech on the subject. Thank you again. I'm requesting, before calling next speaker, I want to inform to this audience, to the participants, the Honorable Chief Minister of Tamilnadu, Mr. M.K. Stalin, given a wonderful greetings to success of this conference. I will read this. I will show it to this greetings. Then I will read only for 2 minutes. சட்டக்கதிர் மற்றும் சென்னை வளர்ச்சிக் கழகம் சார்பில் 2ஆம் உலக அமைதி மற்றும் சச்சரவு தேர்வுகளுக்கான இணைய வழி மாநாடு வருகிற 24/10/2021 அன்று நடைபெறுவது அறிந்து மிகுந்த மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகிறேன். அமைதி, வளர்ச்சி, சமூகம் மற்றும் பொருளாதார முன்னேற்றம் ஆகியவற்றை பாதுகாப்பதற்கும் அம்முயற்சிகளை முன்னெடுத்து செல்வதற்கும் இது போன்ற மாநாடுகள் உறுதுணையாக நிற்கும். நீண்டகால சச்சரவுகளில் இருந்து பெண்கள், குழந்தைகள் உள்ளிட்ட அப்பாவி மக்களின் பாதுகாப்பினை உறுதி செய்வதற்கும் மனித உரிமைகளை மீட்டெடுப்பதற்கும் அமைதியான வழியில் காணப்படும் தீர்வுகள் மிகவும் முக்கியமானது. சமூக பொருளாதார வளர்ச்சிக்கு ஆக்கமும் ஊக்கமும் அளிக்கும் வகையில் நடைபெறும் இந்த மாநாட்டில் மாண்புமிகு நீதியரசர்கள், பல்வேறு நாடுகளிலிருந்து அறிஞர்கள், சட்ட வல்லுநர்கள், வழக்கறிஞர்கள் மற்றும் பேராசிரியர்கள் பலரும் உரையாற்றுவது வரவேற்கத்தக்கதாகும். இப்படி ஒரு சிறந்த மாநாட்டை சட்டக்கதிர் ஆசிரியர் டாக்டர் திரு V.R.S. சம்பத் அவர்கள் ஏற்பாடு செய்திருப்பது மிகுந்த பாராட்டுதலுக்குரியதாகும். உலக அமைதி மற்றும் சச்சரவுகளுக்கான இணைய வழி மாநாடு வெற்றி பெற எனது இதயபூர்வமான நல்வாழ்த்துக்களை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். This is the greetings sent by our Tamil Nadu Chief Minister for this conference. I think you can all witness this return greetings. Thank you. Now, before calling our American speaker wants to go early, even though I will call you another 5 minutes, sir. Just wait for one more speaker, then I will call Dr. Zobuk. I'm requesting Honorable Justice Vimala, the member of the Law Commission of Tamil Nadu. She is a wonderful speaker and she participated all our conferences in Pondicherry, in Chennai, and last year conference, and given a speech in detail on many things. When I asked her to give a speech, she readily agreed to present her speech. Our speech is a dispute in civil disputes and mediation. That is their subject. She will present her speech. Madam?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Yes, madam. Okay.
Good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
United Nations Day wishes to the brothers and sisters world over. The theme of the United Nations today is Building Back Together for Peace and Prosperity. This day is a historic day for humanity. The United Nations is the preeminent institution of multilateralism. It provides a forum where the sovereign states can come together to share burdens, address common problems, and seize common opportunities. All countries, big or small, strong or weak, are equal members of the United Nations. Whatever is flaws, the United Nations is still the only institution that brings together all the countries of the world. It highlights the glorious functioning of this global institution for 76 years. Today, we are talking about peace, justice, and development. Peace, unity, love, and non-violence should be our rallying cry and the catalyst for the change in our nation. That is, all non-violence is that is called organized love. It is none other than our Dr. V.R.S. Sampath, who is organized the love of the whole world today through this conference. My special congratulations and wishes and respect for Dr. V.R.S. Sampath. And I convey my special wishes to the Honorable Minister for Law, who has inaugurated this conference, Honorable Chief Minister, who has given a very meaningful message to the conference, and Brother Justice Bhaskaran, who has inaugurated this conference, and all the allied speakers who will be speaking shortly. Justice and development go together. Development and disputes are the two sides of the same coin, which means that the alarming rate of development has its snag, which is the increasing number of disputes in various sectors. The United Nations, speaking through the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, says, sustainable development is the pathway to the future we want for all. It offers a framework to generate economic growth, achieve social justice, exercise environmental stewardship, and strengthen governance. The people craving is for justice. The craving for justice has been an ideal for which the mankind has been aspiring for generations down the line. Our constitution reflects this aspiration in the preamble itself, which promises justice in all its forms, social, economic, and political. But according to the data released by the Honorable Supreme Court in June 2020, 3.27 crores cases are pending before Indian courts, of which 85,000 has been pending for 30 years. There is no greater tyranny than that which is perpetuated under the shield of law and in the name of justice. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are not satisfied and we will not be satisfied unless and until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. This is what the people expect. When we talk about pendency, it does not mean that the judiciary is lagging behind. The E-Committee of the Honorable Supreme Court of India is taking enormous steps to liquidate the pendency in whatever way possible. It has resorted to digital justice delivery. The information technology and businesses today are becoming inextricably interwoven, and I don't think anybody can talk meaningfully about the one without the other, so said Bill Gates. The E-Committee of the Supreme Court has so far taken digitization of the judiciary in 3 phases. The third phase is in progress, and it is taking steps for ecosystem approach where seamless exchange of information is possible and the uniformity and standardization of data is done, and a 360-degree profiling of each and every individual is also done, but it has got its own challenges. We have no time to elaborate on this. Suffice for me to point out that enormous steps are underway and it will ensure speedy justice, but that step alone may not be possible to liquidate the pendency. Coming back to what is the alternative to this kind of huge pendency? Then it is alternate dispute resolution. And when we talk about alternate dispute resolution, it is also arbitration, which is one of the method of alternate dispute resolution. The ADR mechanism provides scientifically developed techniques to Indian judiciary, which helps in reducing the burden on the court. ADR provides various modes of settlement, which includes arbitration, conciliation, mediation, negotiation, and lok adalat. Arbitration is a procedure in which a dispute is submitted by agreement of parties to one or more arbitrators who make a binding decision on the dispute. In choosing arbitration, the parties opt for a private dispute resolution procedure instead of going to court. I am making it a little bit slow because our main subject is arbitration. Arbitration is a preferred method as it is more rational, more just, and more humane than any other violent means of resolution. It is also consensual. The very umbrella of term arbitration are explained by 2 of our very eminent leaders. One by Mahatma Gandhi, our father of the nation, another one by the 16th President of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln. About arbitration, Mahatma Gandhi said, I had learned the true practice of law. I had learned to find out the better side of human nature and to enter men's heart. I realized that the true function of a lawyer is to unite the parties involved in a dispute. The lesson was so indelibly burnt into me that larger part of my time during the 20 years of my practice as a lawyer was occupied in bringing about private compromises of hundreds of cases. I lost nothing thereby, not even money, and certainly not my soul. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States of America, he was in favor of arbitration when he said, I quote, discourage litigation, persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can, point out to them how the nominal winner is often a real loser, that is in fees, expenses, and waste of time. Nothing can be said more elaborately or more succinctly than the two leaders have said about that. But I will little bit elaborate on the efforts taken by the Government of India and the Government of Tamilnadu to enable ease of doing business for those persons who are wanting to invest in India. The Government of India is pushing forward the concept of Make in India and converting our country as a major player in the world market, for which we need to come out with an enabling business-friendly environment. Our Chief Minister has gone a very further step and said, wherever we move across the world, wherever we see any object, that should reflect that it is made in India. That is the vision that the Honorable Chief Minister is having. In a liberal economic era where the boundaries of nations have become redundant in the business world, allowing free trade and commerce in the global world is the motto and goal of today's good governance. And with the increase of trade and commerce, naturally the commercial disputes are also increasing. What is our duty and responsibility? It is our duty to provide speedy, cost-effective, and fair settlement of commercial disputes, preferably in an informal way. That is the key for becoming leader amongst the developing nations. The Supreme Court already has said that wherever there is a possibility of settlement, it is a duty of the court also to refer the matter to mediation or arbitration or any one of the ADR methods. That is said in 89 CPC. And in the Civil Procedure Code Order 32A Rule 3, apart from Section 12 of the Industrial Disputes Act, are also speaking about those kinds of ADR methods. What I'm trying to tell you is not that the Act alone, Arbitration and Conciliation Act alone speaks about that. Even prior to that, long before, our law has recognized this kind of alternate dispute resolution methods. Coming to Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996, that there are 4 fundamental philosophies, which is very, very important for us to appreciate and understand. The 4 philosophies are party autonomy. Party will have the liberty of choosing their own person who is to judge my case. Party will have that liberty. What else is needed? Expeditious disposal, number 2, minimum judicial interference, number 3, and finality of the arbitral award. These 4 basic philosophies are available in the case of arbitration. That is the basic of it. Where is the commencement of arbitration? And we know that there are many tribunals which are statutory. For example, Motor Accident Claims Tribunal is constituted under Motor Vehicles Act. It is statutory. So far as arbitral tribunals are concerned, it is only the private parties establishing their own tribunal. That is the prerogative available under the arbitration. Though after the Constitution and even during the Constitution, court will have some kind of interference or some kind of facilitation, but it is purely based upon 2 contracting parties deciding to choose to go for arbitration and for establishment of arbitral tribunal. Section 7 of the Arbitration Act states in an arbitration agreement, which is expected to be in writing, and it may be in the form of any form of writing, maybe exchange of letters, telex, telegram, etc., etc. 2015 amendment specially permits creation of arbitration agreement through electronic communication. That is, I am also just pointing out how the law is developing with the advancement of technology by side. There are some of the subject matters which are Some are arbitrable and some are not arbitrable. Before entering into this arbitration agreement, one should be very clear about that. Unenforceability should also be taken care of. Who can be an arbitrator? Section 11 is very, very liberal in saying that a person of any nationality may be an arbitrator unless otherwise agreed by the parties. Here also party autonomy alone speaks. The challenge to the arbitrator can also be made by the parties, but a very beautiful provision is there which says the challenge to the appointment of arbitrator can be decided by the arbitral tribunal itself. That is the special beauty about that. What are the disputes that are non-arbitrable? Unless it is arbitrable, we will not have the facility of arbitration. This is very, very important. Therefore, I am only giving the broad categories. Dispute relating to rights and liabilities arising out of criminal offences, number 1. Number 2, matrimonial disputes relating to divorce, judicial separation, restitution of conjugal rights, guardianship matters, insolvency and winding up matters, matters relating to public charities or public charitable trust under the Public Trust Act, testamentary matters, eviction or tenancy matters. The underlying factor behind this is wherever the right in rem is involved, the disputes are non-arbitrable. Where rights in personam is involved, the arbitrations are freely allowed. That is the only thing. What are the advantages of having an arbitrator? The parties can agree on the procedure for conducting the arbitration proceedings. The Code of Civil Procedure is not applicable. When no procedure is agreed upon by the parties, the tribunal is authorized to conduct the proceedings as it considers appropriate. Even when the parties are going to be silent, the tribunal will not take away the Code of Civil Procedure for deciding the dispute. The procedure that is agreed upon is which the arbitral tribunal considers appropriate. The tribunal is expressly exempted from applying the provisions of Civil Procedure Code and the Evidence Act. Both are not applicable. It is only the appropriate procedure. Wherever there is an arbitration under the arbitral institution, maybe the rules of that institution which will be applicable. Having said that, CPC is not applicable, Evidence Act is not applicable, and the parties will have so much of advantage. The result that is or advantages accruing to the party is the privacy of the dispute. It is less expensive. Finality is attained at the early point of time. It suffices to point out that it is less complicated, less complicated. When it is less complicated, parties will understand the case in a better way. Where is the commencement? Section 21 provides that in the absence of an agreement between the parties, the arbitral proceedings in respect of a particular dispute shall commence on the date on which a request for the dispute to be referred to arbitration is received by the other party. Commencement is there because when we speak of finality, starting from that point, finality comes at an early point of time. We have already said that it is Evidence Act is not applicable. Confidentiality is ensured by 2019 Amendment Act. There are 3 amendments for the 1996 Act. One in the year 2015, another in 2019, another in 2021. There are 3 amendments. And the government of India is very, very particular that the law should be updated, law should be up to date, and so that the ease of doing business is not in any way affected. Confidentiality is ensured under the 2019 Amendment Act, which has introduced Section 42A, which speaks about confidentiality of information. What is when we talk of arbitral tribunal, what are the powers? There are powers under the Section 17, which power is equivalent to same powers as that of the court in respect of interim measures. Whatever is the nature and type of remedy that could be granted by the civil court, and equally the tribunal is also entitled to grant it. Therefore, nothing to worry about that. Most important is, as we all know, speedy trial is the fundamental right of any person who is aspiring to get justice in a court of law. Under Article 21 has been interpreted where the Honorable Supreme Court said speedy trial is the fundamental right. Here, when we talk about the expeditious disposal as the fundamental philosophy or arbitration, Where are the provisions? What are the provisions? Very important provision is time limit is set up under section 29A. The Arbitration Act provides for a time limit of 12 months for the arbitral tribunal to decide and make the award. That is 12 months. This period can only be extended by another 6 months upon the agreement by the parties. See the consequence. If the award is not made within a period of 6 months, what is going to happen? The mandate of the arbitrator stands terminated. See what kind of stringent provisions to ensure that the justice is timely, justice is speedy. And if the award is not going to be within time, mandate of the arbitrator will get terminated. Section 29A also states that where the award is made within a period of 6 months, arbitrators are encouraged and they are entitled to claim additional fees from the parties. And if it is not going to be within the time and it is going to be extended, there is 5% reduction of the original fees also. These are the provisions ensuring that it should be timely. The next question is, when it is timely, where is the scope for finality? When it comes to finality, there are only limited grounds available to challenge the award under section 34. It is not an appeal, it is not a review, it is not a second appeal involving substantial question of law, not like that. Very limited judicial review under section 34, limited grounds. That is available for setting aside the award. There is only one appeal after the award is confirmed under section 36. Then when those kinds of impediments are there, then naturally finality will be coming to an very easily. I will just mention only the grounds of challenge of the award, which is very important. Only on the important aspect I am just elaborating, not on everything. It is incapacity of a party, the arbitration agreement being invalid under any law, improper notice of appointment of arbitrator, the arbitral award decided on a dispute beyond the scope of reference to arbitration, the procedure for composition of the arbitral tribunal or arbitral procedure was not in accordance with the agreement of parties, the subject matter of dispute is incapable of being settled, the arbitral award is in conflict with public policy, it is affected by fraud or corruption, or it is in contravention of the fundamental policy of Indian law or basic notions of morality or justice, or it is in violation of confidentiality and admissibility of evidence. These are all the grounds on which the award can be challenged. And then the appeal is also on a very limited ground. And the only thing I wish to point out especially is this amendment, especially the 2019 amendment, has arbitration towards institutional arbitration. The statutory mandate of establishing Arbitration Council of India is another step towards formalization of arbitration in India, with the council having powers to grade arbitral institutions and recognize professional institution providing for accreditation to arbitrators. These are the very essential provisions and very essential steps which are taken by the government of India and the government of Tamilnadu also to ensure ease of doing business and to ensure dispute resolution through methods which are non-violent, through methods which are establishing the relationship between the parties, not breaking away the relationship for the sake of money. There was a conversation between the heart and the brain. The brain asked the heart, why are you going on sending messages to people? Laptop, always sounding laptop. The heart immediately responded saying, as a brain, you may require reasons, but as a person, as a heart, I want a relationship, and therefore I am going on sending messages to people whether they want it or not. The message through alternate dispute resolution is that peace and harmony is possible, and your dispute will also get settled through peaceful methods. And all people are by nature, they are peace loving and they are peace enjoying. Peace only ensures development. Therefore, let us resort to alternate dispute resolution methods, especially arbitration. Thank you very much for the wonderful opportunity given. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Justice. Always you used to go to in depth for anything, and whenever you presenting the paper, I need every speaker, please send your paper to our office by email to publish as a book about this conference. Thank you, madam. Given a detailed speech about the subject. Now I am requesting again Dr. Kanda Yamkala is there. Kanda Yamkala is there. Anyway, is not still not coming. I'm requesting Dr. Joseph Book, the Director of School of Conflict Management and Peace Building and from Kenshaw State University, Atlanta, USA. Sir, please unmute your mic and present your speech, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sampath, and all of you with the Madras Development Society. I'm going to talk today about something that I've been involved in through the Trust Network. I will talk about initially some parallels between the United States and India. I will refer to some lessons from Sri Lanka, from the work that I did in Sri Lanka with the Asia Foundation. I'll talk about engaging in conflict early warning and early response in the United States, violence prevention versus interruption, some deficiencies that we found in the system that we use, and then finally some conclusions. And I'll try to keep this brief, around 15 minutes. Is that okay? Will that work time-wise?
Yes, pardon, sir?
Around 15 minutes, is that, will that work
yes, 15
okay?
minutes is okay. Please.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. First of all, parallels between the United States and India. It is internationally recognized that the United States now suffers from toxic polarization. Partisan politics have steadily evolved into very distinct opposing narratives, and conflict between the distinct identity groups escalates into violence, often tied to political events such as elections, rallies, and court rulings laden with racial overtones. Of course, India is facing similar polarization, fueled by religious nationalism and the struggle to attain and hold political power. Religion is arguably less of a factor in the United States, though our partisan divide also has religious dimensions. Both of our countries suffer from the propagation of hate via digital means. It is astonishing how rumors and outright lies can spread rapidly over social media. And the tendency seems to be that the more extreme they are, the more viral they become. Indeed, some social media platforms are designed to work that way. Lessons from Sri Lanka. I was first exposed to violence prevention at a local level when working with the Foundation for Coexistence in Sri Lanka as a consultant to the Asia Foundation. The Asia Foundation had a grant from the British High Commission in Colombo. Foundation for Coexistence, FCE, was the Asia Foundation's implementing partner, and I engaged in monitoring, evaluation, and report writing. I spent considerable time with FCE staff members, and they became some of my best teachers. FCE's approach was to train people in mediation at a local level. They also hired field monitors who were expected to submit a report daily about either conflict or cooperation. They were based in the contentious eastern province of Sri Lanka. Field monitors would also call FCE staff members in Colombo with a plea for top-level intervention if it appeared that conflict was escalating. Sometimes FCE made calls to senior officials. At other times, they relied on themselves and went to the location of potential violence to try to dissuade people from harming one another. FCE headquarters also compiled events data from numerous news sources in multiple languages. They had a verification team to check the veracity of news reports. Verified data were combined with data from field monitors, and trend analyses were performed for an indication of the general direction of tensions at an aggregate district level. At the same time, field members using inductive reasoning would sense that violence would soon erupt and would travel to those locations and negotiate solutions to reduce tensions. Okay, now I move to engaging in conflict early warning in the United States. In the months leading to the 2020 elections, it was clear that violence was likely in the United States. Due to that concern, the Trust Network was created. There are 3 entities in the Trust Network. First is Mediators Beyond Borders International, which has relationships with mediators around the world. Second is the National Association for Community Mediation, which is an umbrella organization of member community mediation centers, many of which were established as authors. Third entity was a group of people with experience using information and communication technologies for humanitarian purposes. We created Election Incident Reporting USA, which after the election we renamed to Political Incident Reporting USA. We refer to ourselves as a group of digital nomads. Our idea was to engage mediators in hotspots throughout the United States. We use Zoom to engage in training in conflict early warning and early response. We built robust partnerships with organizations and individuals to enhance capacity for both warning and response. You can look at our website and see the partners that we worked with, that we continue to work with. In terms of technologies, we started out using Ushahidi, a digital mapping platform developed in Nairobi, Kenya, and used throughout the world. We sought text messages about unfolding events and used Twilio for receiving and sending them. We linked Ushahidi and Twilio using an application programming and interface, an API. In terms of the technologies, I've written elsewhere about other conflict early warning and early response approaches that involve disseminating a short code, urging people to send information if they spot something suspicious or concerning, otherwise known as crowdsourcing, while also training a group of people how to intervene, while also relying on them to send information on events of conflict and cooperation. This is a trust network as compared to a crowd. In this case, submissions of data from Trust Network members does not need to be verified, whereas crowdsourced data does. In the case of the Trust Network in 2020, we did not receive considerable text from trusted members who have been trained. We decided not to disseminate a short code to promote crowdsourcing because we lack the human resources to go through the verification process. At the same time, we started using Slack, where we asked people to share information on unfolding events, which they monitored using Twitter. We prioritized the cities where there were both an indication that tensions were rising, but also where there were organizations on the ground that had the ability and desire to respond if there was a warning. For each of these cities, we built lists of respected journalists and their Twitter handles. We also identified freelancing reporters, sometimes called night crawlers, and credible non-reporters whose tweets we had followed long enough for them to establish credibility. The people monitoring Twitter traffic we call media monitors. The media monitors were volunteers from all over the United States, but also in Scotland, Norway, Australia, and elsewhere. The ones who volunteered extensively became familiar with biases of the data sources, whether they were journalists, freelancers, or non-journalists. This assessment of bias was factored in cognitively by media monitors when aggregating data and triangulating events for verification. By cognitively, I mean that judgment calls had to be made and there was a procedural discipline that had to be maintained, such as not issuing a warning to groups in hotspot locations until triangulation was completed. This media monitoring and notification of people locally was labor intensive. Adding events to the digital map on the Ushahidi platform came to be seen as not useful for early warning purposes. It also took time to write up explanations that we were providing with each entry. Thus, the map was eventually abandoned as we concentrated on using Twitter for data and Slack for communication. Okay, now I'll cover violence prevention versus interruption. One of the confusing dimensions of our work was in clarifying that violence prevention can begin well before tensions escalate and violence is likely. In fact, it is far preferable to work towards dissipation of tensions early. There are some circumstances, however, where that was either not done or when there is abrupt escalation. In those cases, violence must be interrupted. We found that many of the staff of community mediation centers were interested in learning how to engage in interruption, but it was new to many of them. On the other hand, we found 3 organizations that were engaged in interruption regularly. The first is Cure Violence Global, based in Chicago. Their violence interruption approach hails from epidemiology. They have primarily sought to prevent gang violence, so their approach must be adapted to addressing violence driven by polarized politics or extremist groups, or both. The second is DC Peace Teams, which operates in Washington, DC, but has trained people in interruption in numerous locations, most recently over Zoom. The third is Nonviolent Peace Force, which is based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but has operations globally. When it comes to interruption, we found that another technology was needed, namely a secure text messaging platform. We started using Signal to communicate with members of DC Peace Teams and Nonviolent Peace Force. Our communications were not warnings per se. Instead, we provided information that enhanced their situational awareness. For example, on January 6, 2021, the day of the insurrection in Washington, DC, we were in contact with DC Peace Team members about movements of various groups, especially the so-called Proud Boys and Black Lives Matter protesters. We saw that these 2 groups were about to meet in a predictable location, and we urged DC Peace Team to try to change the trajectory of one of the groups. DC Peace Team was successful in doing so, and we assumed violence was therefore interrupted successfully. We had similar success elsewhere. Okay, so what are the deficiencies? We have spotted deficiencies in our media monitoring approach. First, people sending tweets do not always have their GIS feature turned on their phones, which makes it difficult to identify where they are located. We speculate that this problem can be partially solved by spotting buildings, monuments, and the like. Most of the tweets have images and video footage sent with brief explanations. We wonder if there is room for using artificial intelligence to assist in identifying locations of where images and video footage is taken, using pattern recognition, offering a location and confidence intervals. The second deficiency is our inability to monitor non-prioritized areas. We are skeptical about the use of artificial intelligence to mine huge volumes of data, but we are hopeful that algorithms can be sufficiently trained to identify signals of escalating tensions. This would be helpful in drawing our attention to non-prioritized locations, especially if there happens to be a local organization with the capacity and desire to engage in violence prevention. A third deficiency is the need for a dashboard to pull disparate information together while archiving it as time goes by. It might be possible to weigh tweets according to degrees of bias in one direction or the other, aggregate them, and plot location of escalating tensions. The dashboard could keep track of Twitter handles of credible sources by city, track them using parsing software, and aggregate with predetermined thresholds for warnings. It could also assist in disseminating warnings to people prepared to intervene to prevent violence in specific locations. The archive data could be used to spot lessons learned and also used for other research. In conclusion, both India and the United States are suffering from polarization, a proliferation of hate groups, digital hate communications, and associated violence. Our two countries could benefit from sharing lessons learned from our efforts to prevent violence in these polarized climates. There is also room for collaboration in developing algorithms that can help us detect signals of increasing tension. A good place to start is to work with Aggie, found at getaggie.org, an aggregation platform developed by Mike Best and his team at Georgia Tech. Finally, I challenge university faculty members to work together and students to work together to build a world-class dashboard as an open source product. Our understanding of the impact of social media on politics is in its infancy. And the regulation of social media by governments is just now getting traction. But I regret to say that we are going to be facing polarization and associated violence for the foreseeable future. Just imagine if Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels had Twitter at their disposal. It is a bleak picture, but please keep in mind that there are universities filled with faculty and students who are bright, who care, who are willing to work for a better world. We can do great things if we build networks of trust and goodwill globally. I invite you to join in this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. You've given a lot of picture about USA, international, India and USA, many other matters on peace and conflict resolution. It is new to us for many of the information. We all enjoyed about your presentation. We can collaborate in future for our university, for many of our peace initiative in India. Because of academic activities, very, very important to boost in India and other Asian countries. Western countries very much showing interest on peace and conflict resolution. I studied a short-term program in Ottawa in Canadian International Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution. Similarly, I studied in Austrian Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution, and I studied ISS, International Institute of Social Studies in Netherlands. All are peace and conflict. Not in India. India is not very much familiarized this program. But
also recently you studied in Italy, Dr. Sampath.
Yes, Italy also I attended a refugee program. Not only that, now the Indian government and Indian courts are very much showing interest for the arbitration, mediation, and negotiation. And the peace building activities very, very less for a year. So your speech will be motivating a lot for us.
Before you go, Dr. Sampath, I want to add one point for Dr.
No.
I want to just congratulate Dr. Book for accepting this prestigious second international award for Kansas State University School of Peace Building. That's very a noble gesture. And also, Professor pointed out that if a Twitter has been there for Goebbels and Hitler, we don't need that anymore. Now we have a Trump and Republican. Thank you.
Yes,
that's all.
Thank you, sir. Now I am requesting next speaker. We will give this award before calling next speaker. We will give this award in India or in USA. When I'm visiting, I will bring the entire award to organize a small function in your university, and we will present this award to your department.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I apologize ahead of time that I have another meeting that I'm going to have to go to, but I'm grateful to all of you, and I encourage you to keep working hard at this, and also consider applying for a Fulbright to come to our university and study with us. We would love that, and I'm grateful to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Next time, I'm requesting Dr. Mukesh Kapila, Professor of Global Health and Humanitarian Affairs, University of Manchester, UK. Sir, Dr. Mukesh is there?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sampath, and congratulations on attending many courses in many countries. I'm sure that has either made you a very wise man or a very confused man. I think I leave you and your colleagues to judge that.
Okay.
Now, what I'm going to talk about is on change tack, really, because after all, today is UN Day, as you have reminded us at the beginning, but we have not really talked much about it so far. And reflect perhaps on the issues of war and peace from a more global and international perspective. So, and there I will try and be a little bit provocative, because having listened to our distinguished friends here and colleagues, I see a number of assumptions which are don't necessarily apply in the geopolitical sphere. So while I think what may apply in a family dispute, what may apply in a community dispute in a country, can it be translated just like that to an international dispute between nations? So if we look at international peacekeeping, for example, now, it is a $7 billion operation, $7 billion. There are about a dozen peacekeeping operations around the world, more than 100,000 soldiers. But largely, they do very little other than keep conflicts frozen for a period of time until the world gets impatient and can't foot the bill. And then these soldiers leave. And in between, peacekeeping doesn't necessarily result in a solution to the underlying problems, because the solutions are not amenable to the sorts of interventions that a club of countries can make if, for example, the members of that club are not minded to comply. Also, as I have been researching, the amount of abuse and exploitation, including sexual abuse and exploitation, that takes place when international peacekeepers operate in some countries, including rape and many other conditions, is actually quite staggering. So I think the modality of peacekeeping, at least as practiced in the UN, which might have done some useful things at a distant time, long time ago, 70 years ago, 60 years ago, 50 years ago, needs to be revisited for today's age. Today, for example, countries are very, very concerned about intervention from others. And that applies to India as well. On the matter of India's dispute with Pakistan over Kashmir, India doesn't want any arbitration by any international body to come in and to tell the two countries what to do about it. It's a bilateral matter between the two countries, according to Indian policy. Similarly, I think the position adopted by India in the UN Security Council, of which it is a member nowadays, is against intervention in other countries. And it's tragic to see that this non-intervention policy is resulting in what is going on, for example, in the Tigray region of Ethiopia, where a mass murder and genocide is taking place. And the UN Security Council is completely neutralized by this, because countries like, members like India, China, Russia are disallowing the UN to intervene. So I think it's can be a little bit hypocritical to be talking about peace and conflict resolution when actually national interests and the national and geopolitical interests provide no incentives for the resolution of such armed conflicts. And in these armed conflicts, millions are suffering. There's starvation going on in Tigray. There is a huge food shortages in South Sudan. There is now we're having additional problems on top of that. For example, climate change. When we start getting resource wars because of shortage of water or competition over land or environmental degradation, which is going to lead to millions of people being uprooted from their lands and finding safety elsewhere. Or indeed, in the case of some countries, like in the low-lying regions, say in the Pacific or the Caribbean, these countries might disappear. So what exactly is going to happen when the problems, geopolitical problems, environmental problems, and other international disputes, to which at one stage the UN might have been expected to provide a solution because the members of the UN believed in a certain rule of law to which everyone kind of believed in or complied with. But today we live in the age of impunity, where the UN can pontificate in whatever way it likes. It can set norms if it wants to, which it does. But by and large, countries don't. Countries will only follow what is in their interest to do so. And this, by the way, applies to both rich and poor countries. The way the United States behaves, or the way China behaves. Don't be surprised then that if the superpowers behave that way, or budding superpowers like India behave that way, then smaller countries also feel that why they should follow an international law and order. So I think it's a sober reflection on this anniversary of the United Nations. You know, the UN was formed in the crucible of war after the Second World War, the greatest of all wars. And its principal purpose, if you look at the UN Charter, is around peace. But what's happened over subsequent decades is that it has become a social welfare organization. It has become a development organization. And by confusing the peace agenda with all the other agendas, we have effectively neutralized the UN. Well, I agree that poverty is a form of violence also. I agree that gender inequality is a form of violence also. I agree that if you are hungry, if you are unhealthy, then that is a form of violence on the human condition. But by that logic and widening definition of conflict, what we've done is we have actually taken away the principal purpose for having an international organization to mediate between nations. And I believe that that many UN agencies, and I worked in many of them in my long career, they have made big business out of social development, but out of economic development and other forms of development. And also, by the way, from on peace business as well. Peacekeeping is the most expensive part of the UN budget and possibly the least effective in a way. And so what is going on now is we are in a very bad state of affairs. And I think it is important that academics and more importantly, people on the ground, more important than academics, more important than professors, people who are at the coalface of where these paradoxes and contradictions collide with reality, we try to find a better and different paradigm. I mean, going back to peacekeeping for a moment, one of the biggest scandals in UN peacekeeping, apart from the abuses that soldiers commit in their host countries, often the host countries are very poor, and and the soldiers who commit these abuses, they just come back to their own countries, where of course they're not prosecuted generally. There is impunity there. Apart from that, many countries who have been contributing their soldiers supposedly in the cause of peace, it is a way of subsidizing their own military. Because if these soldiers were in their own country, they would be making coups. They would be making problems within their own country. Much better to send them off on some foreign place under the UN umbrella ostensibly to bring peace, earn money because soldiers are paid, I think the fee is over $1,000 per soldier that a country gives to the UN for peacekeeping duty. Of course, the soldiers are not getting $1,000. They're getting their normal few dollars salary. So countries are profiting and subsidizing their forces. Not every country, not everywhere. I'm just illustrating some of the abuses and excesses that are taking place. So my dear friends, I think the theory looks good, connecting social development and peace, connecting democracy and peace, connecting human rights and peace, and of course, justice and accountability and peace absolutely go together. But on this anniversary, and I spent 30, 40 years in the international sphere, not just in the UN, but also in government as well as in other organizations. We have got to a state of affairs where the conflict and peace business has become a self-serving business of itself, as opposed to having the humility and understanding to realize that our efforts very often are largely theoretical, and in many, many cases, they are irrelevant to at least the business of strategic peace. I mean, I'm not talking about mediation at the family level in a divorce case or in a property case or in those kinds of cases. Absolutely, and I think lawyers that are trying to solve problems without going to without actually going and making more money from the disputes between people, they are to be commended. But we don't. But in the international sphere, which is what we're here talking about, according to the title and remit you gave us, I think this is a big scam. So my dear friends in India and elsewhere, we have to start looking at that by looking at it in our own national policies and how those national policies inject into the international paradigm. So if a country behaves immorally, unethically, and promotes its own blind national self-interest while it is serving in international councils like the General Assembly or the Security Council or whatever, then how can it lecture anyone else? How can those countries actually be worthy of ever being on the Security Council? And that includes the current members of the Security Council. So I would say that the best way to reflect on UN Day is to actually have that self-reflection to see if you can think of a better, more honest way of doing conflict resolution and peace building than the somewhat self-serving methodologies we are utilizing nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Everyone given a different angle, but our professor given a lot of information about the United Nations and their role and their activities. India's problem between Pakistan and India about Kashmir and the peacekeeping forces and the peacekeeping soldiers issues, salary, many other things. It is very interesting for us to know all the information. Many of the law students and professors are in this conference. It will be very useful for them to know more about UN and functioning and peacekeeping process in the world. Thank you, Professor, for your wonderful speech. Now I am requesting Dr. Jabamali, former Principal Advisor to the Director General of UNIDO, Vienna, Austria. Jabamali not only Principal Advisor to the UNIDO and also the Advisor to Madras Development Society and also our activities. It's always helpful to us to conduct the conference from time to time, and is giving a lot of ideas how to do for academic, social, and humanitarian work from time to time in Chennai. I'm welcoming Dr. Jabamali to present his speech.
Yes, I'm ready, but I'm not projected on the screen.
Yes. Now it's okay? You are
No.
putting it only. First you start your speech, then automatically it will come.
I see. Okay. Okay. I am extremely grateful to Mr. Sampath for giving me this unique opportunity. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
hear? Okay. I am equally happy that my speech follows the speech of Dr. Mukesh Kapila, under whom I worked in Sudan when he was the UN representative and Secretary General Special Representative there in Sudan. I worked as the UNIDO country director, and I got the impeccable support from him for all that I wanted to do there. It was a conflict-affected country, and I would like to add to whatever he said. Now, let me just to make the statement: UN must not have prevented wars. If you look at how many wars were prevented by the UN, the record may be meager to the extent of being negligible. But UN has a fantastic track record in making peace and keeping peace. Dr. Mukesh Kapila said, yes, peace is frozen only for some time, but peacekeeping forces are really not addressing the root cause of conflict. That's interesting, very interesting. Now, when we celebrate the 75th anniversary of United Nations, critics of UN are questioning
76.
75th, yeah? 6th, yeah. Okay, 76th the anniversary of the United Nations. People are questioning the relevance and the relevance of UN and the effectiveness of its interventions. A retired Indian ambassador recently said, UN is dead. I am not saying it. I am saying critics are saying it. I am not subscribing to that. And they are coming out with the compelling reasons and convincing arguments. The president of the UN Security Council refused to convene a meeting to deal with the magnitude of the problem and ramifications triggered by COVID-19, telling the whole world that it is not a security issue. I'm afraid there is a definitional problem here. We have to redefine what is insecurity. When I worked under Dr. Mukesh Kapila, everything was humanitarian centric. Everything, all the interventions by all UN agencies were humanitarian centric. There was a war between South Sudan and North Sudan for 21 years. And then in one pocket of South Sudan, there's a Niwa mountain region, the fighting factions agreed to sign a peace agreement without resolution. There was no UN resolution for that. They thought, okay, we will stop fighting. They signed a peace agreement. They sustained durable peace without a single violation of ceasefire agreement for 3 years. They were asking for peace dividend. They were requesting the international community to give peace dividend. Then I thought, what should I do? My mandate was to foster economically efficient, ecologically friendly, and socially desirable pattern of development, and with advanced technological means. If I go and talk to any donor about it, they may say I am not normal, because in a conflict-affected country like this, 4 million stranded, like internally displaced persons, and 2 million killed. 2 million people were killed. There I cannot talk about the industrial revolution. So I had very big problem in getting funds. Eventually I approached the Japanese contribution to UN Trust Fund for Human Security. First, the response said, no, it is only for human insecurity, and this is what you are talking about is not human security. I had to redefine. I said, unavailability of food and lack of access to food is one form of human insecurity. Fortunately, the Japanese ambassador was highly appreciative of that. To make the long story short, I managed to get $1.4 million under the guidance of able leadership of Dr. Mukesh Kapila, who he supported me. Out of the way, he said, you are extremely successful in using humanitarian money in an imaginative way. So we started implementing. After 3 years, nobody wanted to look at us. We eradicated extreme poverty in 147 villages of the Nima Mountain region. After 3 years, the World Bank sent a team to assess the impact and compact of the program. They came out with a report on the project, community-based development projects in Sudan, lessons learned. And they said, come on. And what the UNIDO does is the best model for post-conflict recovery and development in terms of sensitization, target beneficiaries, local empowerment, tangible impact, and sustainability. See, durable peace can be created, sustained only through the creation of sustainable sources of livelihood. This is the message. As Dr. Mukesh Kapila rightly said, peacekeeping forces cannot do that. It calls for totally different set of interventions. Again, coming back to the magnitude of COVID-19, he said different forms of insecurity. I would say what we suffer from COVID-19 can be called a health insecurity without war. Health insecurity between China and the rest of the world. Why we are not addressing this issue? Fortunately, in the 76th session of the UN General Assembly, they came out with a nice, very nice, I would just read out the title of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. It says, building resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainability and respond to the needs of the planet, respect the rights of the people, and revitalize United Nations. It's like a jewelry. Nice necklace is fantastic. Nice words and nice phrases. How to add practical meaning to that? How to translate all these things to deeds? Vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. What is needed is a unique blend of both vision and action. I would say each UN staff member should play a role in giving hope for the hopeless, voice for the voiceless, and job for the jobless, or at least one victim of a conflict in any country. I did it. Please, I'm not saying this just to make an exaggerated imagination about what's it, but Dr. Mukesh Kapila is the witness. When I joined UNIDO, I saw a girl cleaning the UNIDO office on day one. I asked her, what's your name? She said, Angelina. You are from South Sudan. Why are you here in Khartoum? My parents were killed during the war. My house was bombarded, and both my mother and father died. I ran away from the war zone. So it created a lot of sympathy in my mind. Okay, then she spoke excellent English, and her accent was much better than my accent. I went to Hilton for dinner, lunch, and when I came back, I saw a note written by this girl. Dear Mr. Binanchi Arachi, they call me Binanchi Arachi. There was a call from Mr. Elnabavi, the director of Arab Bureau, requesting me to convey the following message. She wrote in Shakespearean or Milton English. Then I told myself, this girl cannot work as a cleaning lady for 18 years. 18 years she was working, a girl who ran away from the war zone, worked as a cleaning lady for 18 years. Then I said I should do something. I asked her, there was a vacancy as a security guard. I asked her to apply for this one and the post. Then the UN security chief called me and he said, oh, Mr. Arachi, you cannot promote a cleaning lady as a security officer. Now we call them officers, not security guard. I said, I know what I talk about. You know what I did? I asked her to attend the meeting, weekly meeting of our organization. I expected her to be exposed to all the UN terms and terminologies. I said, I pay from my budget. Your job is to interview. How many candidates you are going to interview? He said 27. Add one more and tell me next week what is her performance. Then he called me the following week and Mr. Arachi, you are right. She tops the list. We would like to have her in UNDP. I said, no, I have a different plan. Please recruit her here. And within 6 months, I promoted her security officer come front desk receptionist. And believe me, at one point she left UN and joined the office of the president of South Sudan. And she was running Mr. Salva Kiir's office. Fortunately, she died. She died of cancer recently. And in an international conference on women empowerment, she told everybody, Mr. Arachi discovered me, and she mentioned my name 18 times, I was told. Now, I'm not talking about it just to give a different image about my role in the UN. What I'm saying, each UN staff member should help at least one victim of conflict. By doing that, now doing an act of like this is not an act of charity. It is indeed an act of human justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jabamalai. You got a lot of experience in Sudan and other places. It is useful for our participants to know about the United Nations functioning and how the peacekeeping activities going on around the world by the agencies. Sir, next I am inviting Dr. D. Saravanan. He is the chairman of the Central Law College, Salem, and also the member of the Tamilnadu Bar Council, and also is a practicing lawyer in Madras High Court. Mr. Saravanan is very enthusiastic personality and supporting for various academic and social activities conducted by us and others time to time. His father was my professor in Madras Law College. He supported a lot for our Satta Kadir and Madras Development Society from time to time. Similarly, Mr. Saravanan also continuing supporting for our activities from time to time. Not only that, he's an academically very strong as well as professionally very strong, and also is running a law college. I'm inviting Mr. Saravanan to present a speech about UN functioning in Afghanistan and resettlement in and other activities to bring world peace. Mr. Saravanan? Hello, Mr. Saravanan. Saravanan? Mr. Saravanan is there? I think he's not there. Mr. Saravanan? Okay. Next I am calling Mr. Parthiban Shanmugam from Atlanta. He's he's studied law in Chennai as well as in USA. He enrolled as a lawyer in Chennai as well as in USA. That is why he's calling for international attorney. He's doing a lot of academic and research activities in law and justice. I'm inviting Mr. Parthiban to present a speech. Mr. Parthiban?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sampath, for giving this great opportunity to present my paper. And Dr. Sampath is known for organizing fantastic and classic and timely bound conferences around the world. He's been conducting conferences since I know myself when I was first in college in the 1980 onwards. Thank you, Dr. Sampath, for organizing this conference. And once again, I'm going to take a different turn on the topic, what originally was given by Dr. Sampath. I'm trying to do on the weaponization of migration, examining migration as a tool of a political warfare by Belarus. Belarus, officially the Republic of Belarus, and historically Belarusia, is a landlocked country in Eastern Europe. It is bordered by Russia to the east and the northeast, Ukraine to the south, Poland to the west, and Lithuania and Latvia to the northwest, covering an area of 80,000 square miles approximately, and with a population of 9.3 million Belarus. And Belarus is the 13th largest and the 20th most populous country in Europe. The country is administratively divided into 7 regions. Minsk is the capital and largest city. Just a small brief about what is Belarus. Many of them may not know it's actually closer to the Russia, right? And the 67-year-old Alexander Lukashenko has served as the first president of Belarus since the establishment of the office on 20th July 1994. Before his political career, Lukashenko worked as a director of a State Farm and served in the Soviet border troops and in the erstwhile Soviet Union army. Lukashenko continued state ownership of key industries in Belarus after the dissolution of the Soviet Union and retained important Soviet-era symbolism, which can be seen in the coat of arms and the national flag of Belarus, adopted following a controversial 1995 referendum, which were based on the symbols of a Belarusian SSR. Following the same referendum, Lukashenko was given more power with the ability to dismiss the Supreme Soviet of Belarus, and another referendum in 1996 allowed Lukashenko to further consolidate power. The Russian language was also given the same status as a Belarusian, and economic ties with Russia were strengthened, which furthermore led to the creation of a union state with Russia, which allows Belarusians to freely travel to work and study in Russia, and vice versa. However, relations with Russia have not always run smoothly under his tenure, such as during milk wars. Lukashenko heads an authoritarian government and has often been referred to by media outlet as Europe's last dictator. Elections are not considered to be free and fair by international monitors. Opponents of the regime are repressed, and the media is not free, leading to sanctions on Lukashenko and other Belarusian officials being imposed. Alexander Lukashenko is in power since 1994, won a presidential election last year with 80.23% of the votes, according to election officials and reported by the BBC. However, result has been contested by opposition leaders, and the European Union has said the vote was neither free nor fair. Lukashenko has denied these allegations. Protests emerged in the aftermath of the election when citizens contesting its outcome clashed with the Belarusian forces. The election and the violent response to protests that followed led the European Union to implement sanctions in 2020 against the Belarusian KGB officials, as well as Lukashenko and his son. On Sunday, May 23rd, 2021, many of you might recall this incident. Ryanair flight FR 4978 was traveling from the Greek capital Athens to Vilnius in Lithuania. It made an abrupt change course of Belarus and some 6 miles from Lithuanian border. Ryanair plane was forced to land in the Belarusian capital Minsk following a bomb threat, which later proved to be false. Belarus detained opponent journalist Roman and his girlfriend Sofia Sapagova, who were on board the flight from Greece to Lithuania. The move has been widely condemned by the West, with the US President Joe Biden said, "My team will develop appropriate options to hold accountable those responsible." On May 23rd this year, Gitanas Nausėda, president of Lithuania, tweeted that the Belarus actions as a state terrorism, and the airspace over Belarus should be recognized as unsafe, and a Belarusian aircraft should not be accepted at European airports. As the West expressed outrage at Belarus hijacking of a Ryanair plane, Russia defended Belarus and described the uproar in the US and Europe as shocking and accused the West of having a double standards. Russia has been steadily increasing its power influence over its neighbor Belarus, but the country's leaders like the President Vladimir Putin and President Alexander Lukashenko are somewhat uncomfortable allies. It is arguable that any alliance is fragile at best and born out of necessity. For Belarus, Russia is a powerful economic and a political partner and a source of support, having backed Lukashenko leadership, which is now in its 27th year. For Russia, Belarus offers an opportunity to exert economic and political influence in the region and is a convenient bulwark against what it sees as the European encroachment upon its former territories, such as Ukraine. Putin is known to favor stability and predictability, and as such, a long-standing leader like Lukashenko in power, who can potentially be more easily influenced, is favored over a regime change. President Putin leverage over Lukashenko strengthened recently when last September, Putin gave Belarus a $1.5 billion loan and agreed to boost trade. The move was widely seen as a gesture of support for Lukashenko following weeks of mass protests demanding his resignation after he won an election which the opposition said was rigged. Lukashenko denied these allegations. On May 25th, 2021, Kremlin dismissed any suggestion that Russia was involved in the forced landing of a Ryanair airplane, saying such a notion was the result of an anti-Russian sentiment. Speaking to reporters on a conference call, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Moscow was unduly accused of everything these days. Reuters reported that, and that critics had let their hatred of Russia affect their judgment. In a televised interview on June 14th, Lithuania President Gitanas Nausėda warned that Belarus is losing its last element of independence and could be used in the hands of Russians as a weapon for aggressive activities towards NATO allies. On June 24th, 2021, European Union has imposed sanctions on key sectors of the Belarusian economy and major revenue sources for the regime authoritarian ruler Alexander Lukashenko, including potash fertilizer exports, the tobacco industry, petroleum and petrochemical products, following the forced diversion of a passenger flight to Minsk on May 23, 2021, that allowed for the arrest of the dissident journalist and his girlfriend. On June 28, 2021, the Belarusian Foreign Ministry announced on a Facebook posting that Minsk had recalled the permanent representative to the European Union for a consultation and those responsible for the sanctions, which target key sectors of the Belarusian economy and major revenue sources for the regime of Alexander Lukashenko would be banned from entering Belarus. Belarus Foreign Ministry accused the European Union of using sanctions as a tool to impose pressure on the sovereign and independent state. The ministry also said Minsk is also suspending its participation in the Eastern Partnership Program, which seeks a closer cooperation between European Union and 6 former Soviet republics like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. On the 22nd, 2021 in Brest, the city is in the southwest of Belarus on the Polish border, Lukashenko said Belarus has been at war for a long time. And over the past year, we have experienced the most advanced hybrid warfare technologies. So that's what I'm coming up with now for what is hybrid warfare, right? In an interview to June 27, 2021 with the popular Baltic news portal Delphi, Lithuania's Interior Minister Agne Biatait said Belarusian officials were behind the surge in the migrants this year into Baltic, calling it is a well-organized plan. Biatait said the immigrants are paying as much as $15,000 to be transported over to the border. We really have evidence of the involvement of Belarusian border guards in this process. This is a fact. This is an organized activity, a certain scheme, well-organized plan. This is a lot of money, she said. More than 550 people have been caught so far this year illegally entering Lithuania from neighboring Belarus, more than 7 times the figure for all of 2020 and more than 12 times the number for 2019. Iraqi nationals are the largest group of migrants entering Lithuania from Belarus, followed by Iranians, Syrian, and Belarusians. Biatait called Belarusian government's involvement as a form of hybrid warfare. This is obviously profitable crime involving the regime and the officials themselves, she said. On June 29, 2021, this year, Nabila Masali, spokeswoman for European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said, Minsk's decision to suspend its participation in the Eastern Partnership framework serves only to further isolate Belarus and is yet another demonstration of the regime disregard for the Belarusian people. The European Union remains open to continue working with the Belarusian people within the framework and will continue to support the Belarusian people and civil society as well as the democratic aspirations. Regarding the Belarusian authorities, moved to request that the European Union envoy to Minsk is recalled to Belarus for consultations, Marcelli said that keeping channels of a communication open is crucial in times of a crisis. This has always been our intention. Minsk has also started to procedure to suspend the readmission agreement between the European Union and Belarus. The Belarus Foreign Ministry said, adding that such a move would negatively affect the cooperation with the European Union in terms of the fight against illegal migration and organized crime. It's kind of a joke, actually, it is. But Masrali refuted the ministry claims, saying the suspension would not automatically affect the visa regime between Minsk and Brussels, which she said was crucial for preserving personal links between European Union and Belarusian citizens. The decision to suspend readmission agreement does not imply the automatic suspension of a visa facilitation agreement, which is called VFA, between European Union, Belarus, according to suspension's article in the VFA, Marcelli said. It should be reminded that the visa facilitation agreement is one of the most important tools that we have to maintain strong people-to-people links between the European Union and the Belarusian people. This remains a core objective for the European Union, she said. The actions of the Lukashenko regime are also isolating a country, but we are doing everything we can for the Belarusian people not to be isolated too. In this context, you can see an example of India and Pakistan. Although India and Pakistan are belligerent countries, they are always in a quarrel and a fighting. We also had 3 major warfares between us. But however, the people-to-people connections are very, very important. My learned friend, Attorney Koshi, is also here on the line. I can see him. Our best friend when we were studying in a law school in New York was Asif from Pakistan, son of Mayor of Karachi. So this is how we build the peace between the people. Then let me, that is out of the topic. So I go back to a Belarusian. The Belarusian Foreign Ministry said that head of the European Union delegation to Belarus, Dirk Sebel, was summoned at the ministry to inform him of the moves. The European Union, the United States, Britain, and Canada have previously slapped sanctions on Belarus over the diversion of a Ryanair flight, including asset freezes and visa bans imposed against dozens of officials, lawmakers, and ministers from Lukashenko administration and his family members, as well as Belarusian entities. The European Union also denied permission to any aircraft operated by Belarusian air carriers to land in, take off from, or overfly European Union territories. In August 2021, several videos released by the government of Latvia and Lithuania, they show thousands of people, most of them from Iraq, illegally entering the European Union in the last several weeks, with Belarusian officials appearing to shepherd them along. So one of the video actually shows the group of people walks tentatively forward, escorted by Belarusian guards in a riot gear. Then the guards yell, "Go!" Physically pushing them, those who seem reluctant to take further steps. But these are the videos are available on YouTube, or you can just Google, you can see them. In Lithuania, more than 4,000 people have entered the country this way, more than 500 times the figure for all of last year. The Latvia Interior Minister Marja Gorbachev declared that Belarus is weaponizing international migration and making a special path for irregular migration to the border of the Baltic states like Lithuania and Latvia. This is not any sort of a spontaneous emergence of a migration trial to our countries. This is specifically directed action by the government of Belarus as perhaps a way to have a revenge on the European Union for the sanctions that were imposed after the plane was hijacked. Belarus invites Iraqis to come to as a tourist, then sends them into the European Union, according to Lithuanian officials. The newer arrivals booked the flight from Baghdad to Minsk, got a tourist visa in their passport on arrival at the airport, then were helped by Belarusian officials to illegally cross the European border. Large number of people began crossing into the European Union every night. Recently, Lithuania reinforced its border with barbed wire and extra guards, some sent from European Union and other countries too. Both Latvia and Lithuania also declared state of emergency on their Belarusian border, which allows them to prevent people from entering and filing for asylum claims. Lithuania Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis says this should not just be concern for Belarus or European Union, but for the whole democratic world, which he says needs to wake up. If Lithuania and Latvia hadn't blocked the Belarusian route, it could be scaled and it could be used against anybody because it is extremely, extremely easy. You just need a country or a rogue state that just stops the control of the border. To add to that, if it offers a help for people to go to the border, that it stops controlling, you have a hybrid attack. Minsk is allegedly also channeling people to Poland, and Estonia, Latvia, and Poland have called the United Nations Security Council to take up the issue. If the situation isn't resolved, they have agreed to raise it as an Article 4 security threat with NATO, 1 degree below, summoning all allies to come to their mutual defense. You might have seen when this right now, when before United States was vacating from Iraq, and the NATO was almost raised the Article 5, which allows all the NATO member countries join together, go and pound the country which is violating the NATO rules. But that's what it is. But here, these 3 countries actually wanted to raise Article 4. They are not going to the 5 yet. And on September 10th, the Zapat 2021 or West 2021 strategic exercise. This is just like recently India just conducted last 2 weeks back called Malabar 2021, which had Australia and United States, Japan. It's like we call them a quad countries. So they actually did it in a Kerala coast in a Malabar, the exercise. The same thing in West 2021, the strategy exercise took place in 4 training grounds in Belarus and 9 in Russia. And some 200,000 soldiers participated in total. That was the truth, but according to the information from Minsk, only 12,800 soldiers, including 2,500 from Russia and 50 from Kazakhstan, involved in the first part, which took place in the Belarusian territory. On October 17th, just a week ago, French ambassador to Belarus, Nicolas de Castro, was forced to leave Minsk by the regime. The ambassador didn't present the credentials to Lukashenko and was vocal about human rights abuse. According to Brian Whitmer, the non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council Euro-Russia Center, says Lukashenko openly hostile stance represents a major departure from recent Belarusian foreign policy. Not so long ago, the Belarus dictator went out of his way to reassure neighboring countries that they had nothing to fear Minsk. Following Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea and armed intervention in the eastern Ukraine, Donbas region, Lukashenko said he would never allow Belarusian territory to be used to attack another state. In the run-up of a joint Russian-Belarusian Zapat 2017 military exercise, he repeatedly pledged to his neighbors that the drills would not become a platform for mischief. Belarus even invited observers from 7 countries like Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Sweden, and Norway, as well as representatives from the United Nations, the OSCE, NATO, and also from the Red Cross to monitor the portion of a Zapat 2017 exercise that was taking place in a Belarusian territory. This accommodating attitude changed dramatically following last year's flawed Belarusian president's election and a brutal crackdown on a protest that ensued. With Lukashenko internationally isolated and in increasingly dependent on Vladimir Putin's Russia, the Minsk strongman is now mimicking the Kremlin's leader's confrontational stance. Lukashenko's changing tone could have serious implications for regional security, with the September Zapad 2021 military exercise involving Russian and Belarusian forces. The following summer season promises to be tense period on Europe Eastern Front. As we speak now, just a day before, European Union called for an emergency summit, and the European Union president used very strong word to condemn Belarusian authorities and Lukashenko. And just we received the message saying Poland also joined with Latvia and Lithuania to declare state of emergency. So that's the kind of world we are living in now. Thank you, Dr. Sampath, once again for allowing me to present this paper in successful second international conference on a conflict and resolution. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Parthiban. Even though you are living in America and you were born in India and you've taken a subject about East European issues between Russia, Belarus, and other European Union countries, but this is a very hot subject going on in Russia and America, this matter. But it's a very important subject on conflict resolution. We can see how we can go for the NATO countries or European Union countries or United Nations taking what steps to end this conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now I am requesting Mr. D. Saravanan. I already told about Saravanan. Saravanan is an advocate and also chairman of the Central Law College Salem, as well as the member of the Tamilnadu Bar Council. He's a very active person in law and justice activities. He is supporting Lord Forever Satak Kadir and Madras Development Society from time to time. His father was my professor. He is also like that from 1992 to till his demise. He supported Lord Forever Satak Kadir. He was editorial board member. Now we included Mr. Saravanan, also one of the editorial member of the Satak Kadir. I'm welcoming Mr. Saravanan to present his speech.
Dr. Dhanapal was a great man. I remember him in your office, Dr. Sampath.
Yes, yes.
He was the first man who introduced a private law colleges successfully in India.
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I extend my gratitude to Dr. V.R. Sampath, editor Satak Kadir, and President Madras Development Society for considering me for delivering my speech on this August occasion. Peace does not mean an absence of conflicts. Differences will always be there. Peace means solving these differences through peaceful means, through dialogue, education, knowledge, and through humane ways, said Dalai Lama. This is the realization needed by the contemporary world, which is endangered cobweb of terror and differences. Good evening to one and all present over here. Honorable Justice S. Bhaskaran, Chairman, Tamilnadu State Human Rights Commission, Honorable Minister S. Raghupati, Honorable Justice Dr. S. Vimala, Member State Law Commission, and other dignitaries, Mr. Parthiban Shanmugam. United Nations role on Afghanistan resettlement to bring world peace. This is a topic which has been assigned to me. In recent times, one of the major human rights issue and challenge to sovereignty occurred. The change was and is so impactful that it received world attention and concern despite of the crisis and the landlocked nation in Central Asia. And its name says Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a land where one of the earliest settlement of human species started, and it is a land where some of the strongest of world rulers stationed and came from in ancient times, like Ahmed Shah. It, like any other nation, has its culture, heritage, and values. Afghanistan is famous for its luxury and wealth. Afghan land has its own history, and it is also well placed geographically, which is anciently a trading route, namely a golden road and a silk road. It leads to most parts of the Asia, wherein the north leads to Bukhara, east leads to Iran, southeast is the gateway to India. It had the great merchandise and trading benefits with the goods like silk, ivory, ruby, gold, and valuable gems and cloths. This country is a side which probably no country would have. The period of trouble starting from 19th century, a clash between Russian and British, wherein Afghan was used as a buffer zone to present day atrocities. The first one resulted, there was a two Anglo-Afghan war held. The first one resulted in destruction of British army, and the second Afghan war ended in 1880, resulted to accept diplomatic mission in Kabul. This affected the Britishers to retain effective control of Kabul's foreign affairs, where in 20th century is considered as a human right arena, especially in the later 1950s to 1990s, wherein many nations got independence and many new world powers are arising. The light of human right and the respect to its value is yet to reach and help the Afghanistan. Even when you search in the net, plight of this nation is such that issues come first, then its description. The country has high levels of terrorism, poverty, the child malnutrition. The Afghanistan's economy is the world's 96th largest, with a gross GDP, domestic product, of $72.9 billion. By purchasing power parity, the country fares much worse in terms of per capita GDP, ranking 169th out of 186 countries as of 2018. The country was under the control of Taliban for most of the time, wherein they declared Afghanistan as the Islamic Emirate, with Mullah Muhammad Omar control major part of the country between 96 to 2001. Okay. Isn't it an internal matter of the power change and the political struggle? Why is world benefited, you may ask? But the case here is different, as the regime has led to a human right violation. In that time, basic human rights were suspended in Afghanistan. Women were not allowed to work, and the girl children were not allowed to go to school for the education to be continued. Women could not venture out of their homes without the companion of male. The Kabul football stadium was a place where the public execution held. They did not have any entertainment, either music, television, cinema, painting, and even kite flying were banned. He ordered the destruction during this Homer period. He ordered destruction of Buddha Bamiyan to bring back complete Islamic system. In this past 20 years, they carried out many attacks by killing several thousands of civilians, assassinating journalists, liberal critics, even pilots. They forced the marriage of young girls with Taliban militants. In the year of 2019, there was an attack
held in New Zealand. Followed by that, United States entered into a formal peace talk with Taliban. And in the year 2020, entered into a formal settlement which resulted in agreeing with the withdrawal to all the US and international forces by May 2021, and in return for a Taliban guarantee that Islamic terror groups would not operate from Afghan soil. The Taliban also ceased attacks on US personnel following the February 2020 settlement, marking the end of US combat deaths in Afghanistan, but Afghan government representatives were not participants in the US Taliban talks. Later, in the year 2020, September 12, Afghan government and the Taliban representative officially met in Doha, Qatar, to begin their first direct peace negotiation toward a settlement. With the ongoing Afghan conflict, talks between the two sides held but remained complicated due to various factors. The United States prepared a draft for a peace agreement to start with some negotiations with various of options, including the establishment of interim transitional government, which the Afghan president Ashraf Ghani has rejected. The culmination of these efforts was to be a senior level Afghan conference in Turkey planned for April 2021, but the Taliban refused to attend and continue to reject the participating in such a meeting. United Nations committed to stay and provide aids to the millions of people in need in Afghanistan. They were more concerned about the violation of human rights and future of women and children. The various agencies related to humanitarian committee supported the vulnerable people, those who are in need. In the war between the US and Afghanistan for the past 19 years, between 2001 and 2020, based on official data, the military expenses was to about $955 billion, which is almost close to $1 trillion mentioned by President Biden. Leaving the money alone, the Brown University's research in 2019 estimated the loss of life, human life, among the national military and police in Afghanistan was estimated to be more than 64,100 since 2001 when the war began. And there was another data says nearly 364,000 of civilians have been killed or neither injured, and this data is between 2009 and 2020. This is officially from the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan. Ultimately, between the war in US and Afghanistan, Taliban regained the power after 19 years and 10 months period. The key position of the present Taliban regime is held by the globally designated terrorist having deep ties with Haqqani, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, namely Hassan Hakund, Abdul Ghani, Sirajuddin Haqqani, Muhammad Yaqub. These are all the banned people, and they were all mentioned as a terrorist by United Nations. The modern system of governance is based on a belief and a noble idea that rulers have to be accountable to people, and public welfare is their prime duty. Any regime which fails to live up to this principle is a threat not only to its people but the whole mankind. The regime there is a devoid of that, putting subjects and human rights at risk. Human right violation too. It is no border. In olden days, when monarch violated human and their protest people's basic rights. If not addressed together immediately, this must end up risking entire world. Terror attacks have occurred in different continents from USA to India. Antarctica melting down is submerging many cities in Asia, Africa, and America. War in one nation is sending refugee to other nation. The list is on and on and on. This issue in Afghan is one of such. United Nations, being a successful and long-standing world body, is the most appropriate body given its success in handling similar issues and impact on each nation and the world. United Nations, its establishment is successful even in an era of sovereign states. It has, through various initiatives, brought peace in the world and reached out so many lives. In UNAMA, United Nations Special Political Mission is established to assist the state and the people of Afghan in laying foundation for peace and development. The Council has requested the Secretary General to prepare a written report by 31st of January 2022 with its recommendations in light of recent political, security, and social developments. During this period, India-led United Nations Security Council adopted a resolution on this Taliban issue, which was sponsored by France, United Kingdom, and United States. And the same was adopted by 13 members, including India. Though the Russia and China abstained, they were permanent and veto members. United Nations has an impeccable role to be played in the present day Afghan situation. United Nations alone can do this. The first option available will be giving no international recognition to Taliban-led government. International recognition is an important criteria to be an independent state in the 21st century. When United Nations does not give that, repercussions are huge in terms of other nation transaction with Afghan and terms of friend. Another way is by recognizing them as many lives are at stake there. So United Nations can go for preventing diplomacy and mediation in the case of Taliban too, inviting them to talk. Taliban Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi made the request in a letter to United Nations Secretary General Antonio. The Taliban have asked to address world leaders at the United Nations in New York this week and nominated their Doha-based spokesman Sohail Shaheen as Afghanistan's United Nations ambassador. The United Nations could use this app for imposing better human rights related conditions on Taliban. Taliban's desire for international recognition is the only leverage other countries have to press for inclusive government and respect for rights, particularly for women and girl children in Afghanistan. And the other measures United Nations can do is it can send special and personal representative to check the condition prevalent and for promotion of resettlement in Afghan. At this time, when Taliban is seeking recognition, the checks and conditions will have more result. United Nations keeping force can be of huge help. United Nations can deploy it as it did it for South Korea until peace and resettlement is done. Special representative for combating sexual violence for Taliban-led regime, the Secretary General's Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict has helped countries develop and implement laws that criminalize wartime rape and end impunity for perpetrators. Security Council can take appropriate action under Chapter 7 of the Charter to safeguard the human rights and humanitarian needs of the people of Afghanistan, including its most vulnerable, and to address the role of member states to prevent acts of terrorism and international law. Human Rights Council must be deployed to address in an emergency session the obligations of all the states to advance the promotion and protection of human rights. It must provide for speedy establishment of a fact-finding mission to be deployed urgently to Afghanistan to assess the situation on the ground and report back. United Nations special procedures mandates to support fact-finding and accountability on the serious human rights violations occurring in Afghanistan. Most importantly, United Nations can urge its members to take immediate and preventive action to prevent the slaughter of civilians, the destruction of essential civilian infrastructure, and the undoing of decades of human rights, rule of law, and gender equality, to work to advance the health, education, culture, and social infrastructure of Afghanistan. The member states must urge to keep their borders open to receive asylum seekers from Afghanistan while ensuring adequate protection and humanitarian assistance of Afghan refugees and internally displaced persons. Many efforts by United Nations, many nations, unilateral and multilateral efforts have brought peace and established order. Cold War never became a war. Korean War was ended. The United Nations formula for transfer of power to an impartial body was clearly bypassing the existing armed groups who were already engaged in consolidating their power base inside Afghanistan. But this time, United Nations must establish a strong coalition between its diplomatic and humanitarian efforts so that each process enriches the other. And coming to other thing, though in some result was not quickly as expected, but the undeniable truth is that peace prevailed and damage to human rights is reduced drastically. Peace means people shall not have any danger or any disturbance. Through compassion, we attain happiness. We can have dialogues and we shall respect each other with their own rights, and no usage of weapons, arms, or violence. This shall only reduce the conflicts. External disarmaments depends on inner disarmaments. We cannot go back to the past and do anything. We can only plan our future, and it depends on what we are going to do. We can create a better planet by having our mind that everyone is a human being, and we shall treat them with humanness. Words mentioned by Dalai Lama. War seems to be a part of the history of humanity. As we look at the situation of our planet in the past, countries, regions, and even villages were economically independent of one another. Under those circumstances, the destruction of our enemy might have been a victory of us. There was a relevance to violence and war. However, today we are so interdependent that the concept of war has become outdated. When we face problems, our disagreements today, we have to arrive at solutions through dialogues. Dialogues is one and only appropriate method. One-sided victory is no longer relevant. We must work to resolve conflicts in a spirit of reconciliation and always keep in mind the interest of others. We cannot destroy our neighbors. we cannot ignore their interest. Doing so would ultimately cause us to suffer. I therefore think that the concept of violence is now unsuitable. Non-violence is the appropriate method. Finally, at last, I would like to conclude by stating what Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam stressed in the European Parliament. Where there is righteousness in the heart, there is beauty in the character. When there is a beauty in the character, there is harmony in the home. When there is a harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. When there is order in the nation, there is the peace in the world. Let order be brought in Afghan for peace in the world. I thank once again Dr. V.R. Sampath for giving me the opportunity to address this conference. I thank you once again. மகிழ்ந்திரு மகிழ்வித்தர் என்று கூறி விடைபெறுகிறேன். நன்றி வணக்கம்.
Thank you, Mr. Saravanan. You given a wonderful picture about Afghanistan issue. You covered all information for the past 30 to 40 years going on in Afghanistan, present situation, how UN can intervene and international countries how they can control Afghanistan through the diplomacy, through their approval of their country, many other things. Thank you, sir. Now I am requesting Dr. A. Vijayalakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Criminal Law, Tamilnadu, Dr. Ambedkar Law University, to present her speech. Vijayalakshmi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Due to paucity of time, I'm just going into that. First of all, I just want to...
I am requesting you to, because of another one speaker there and chair conclusion is there. The one more speaker from USA, Mr. Koshi, also to say a few words. So please finish as quick as. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you. It gives me really a pleasure and a privilege to be amongst the legal luminaries from the international perspective. And it gives me immense pleasure in presenting my topic, which is something devoted from whatever the earlier presenters has presented. So all the presented has more concentrated on peace settlement resolution. So my concept is about when these peace resolution, peace talks has got failed through the international level, either by the United Nations, either by the General Assembly or the Security Council, which ended in either through the armed conflict or in the violations of international human rights law or the international humanitarian law. So what are all the consequences or the outcome? And more specifically, I'm going to concentrate on the most serious crime, which is crime of crimes also, crime of genocide, and its relevance with armed conflict. So it may be the international or national armed conflict also, internal armed conflicts also. With your permission, I'm just sharing. Okay, I think it has been disabled. If the admin able to share the screen, I will share the screen now. So meantime, so regarding to this, my topic is...
Vijayalakshmi is sharing the screen. Some issues are there. You can
okay, sir, not an issue. Okay, I will continue with that. So without screen sharing, I will continue with that. No issue. So with that perspective, why I chose this topic is that now we are living in an era where everywhere we are coming across the term war or armed conflict. That's what all the presenters today, either they referred about Afghan or Pakistan or Sierra Leone or Syria or whatever it may be. So it is things happening everywhere. So what are all the consequences and what happened to the peace conflict or peace occurred may be there in between. Either the involvement of General Assembly or the involvement of Security Council or the United Nations High Commission for the Human Rights, Office of the High Chair of the Human Rights, when everything got failed. So it happened to go for an tribunal setup or a judicial body setup to prosecute and punish the perpetrators who has committed the most serious violations of this international human rights or humanitarian law. So with by the United Nations, through this international conventions or any other international instruments is a question here. So for the first time, the term genocide was coined by a Polish professor, criminologist, Professor Raphael Lemkin, who was the victim of this Second World War, who was also the victim of this genocide in German. He coined this term in the year 1944 through his celebrated work, which has been published in the European Journal of International Law, which is by name called Access Rule in Occupied Europe, Laws of Occupation, Analysis of Government Proposal and Redressal. So it is a combination of two terms. One is genos and another one is side. Genos means race or a tribe and side means killing. And initially, Dr. Raphael has referred about various types of genocide like a biological genocide, physical genocide, cultural genocide, economical genocide, political genocide, educational genocide. So he tried a level best from 1944 to make it as an international recognition. And he want to convert that act as an internationally prohibited act because it annihilates the international community. So it shakes the international community. During this 1944 or 1945, when the Second World War happened, there was no such a setup by name called either this ICJ or any other court or international court of justice at all. So he wants to get this international recognition for this international crime, which has to be the either erga omnes or jus cogens or delicta or juris gentium, which means the crimes against the nation. So his fought, which was ended in the year 1946, the United Nations General Assembly accepted to go for the adaptation of the International Instrument on Convention on Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide, and it came into effect from 1948. And India played a vital role in bringing about this convention. 4 countries have stressed the United Nations General Assembly for the importance of this genocide as an international crime. It is to be a prohibited act, which has to be accepted as a jus cogens or a compelling necessity for every state party to prevent this in their state. Like India, Cuba, Panama. So these 3 to 4 countries stressed again and again in the Security Council and the General Assembly. At last, it got the assent and it got adopted. So first it starts with ECOSOC, United Nations and the Economic, Cultural and Social Organization proposed for the treaty. And in December 9, 1948, they passed a resolution in 96/1, adopted this as an convention 260/A of Third Convention on this Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide. From that moment onwards, it recognized under the international law, public international law and private international law as a prohibited and punishable act. And the United Nations accepted that there is a loss of humanity, a loss of serious violations of human rights, loss of violations of peace accords, peace task force taken by the United Nations, which ended in the serious crime. And it imposes the obligation of every state parties to prevent and punish the crime of genocide. And they accepted that genocide must not be a crime, should be punished not only during the course of this war, it should be prevented during the time of peace also. The most important factor in this convention is that, so this crime should not be prevented only during armed conflict. It should be the time of peace also. And the violation of this obligation imposes, most importantly, the state responsibility. State is also going to be responsible for any sponsor of this perpetrators who commits the serious violation which ended in genocide. And the definition of this genocide, which comes in Article 2 of this particular convention, it says that it consists of the intention part and the action part. The intention says that either to destroy in whole or in part. So even killing or attacking a single person with a hated purpose, it amounts to genocide. So killing or destroying of whom? Any national, ethnical, racial or religious group. So they covered these 4 protected groups. These 4 groups are called as protected groups under this convention. Any national group or any ethnical group or any racial group or any religious group. And how you are going to commit this genocide? What are the modes, methodologies of committing the genocide during peace or during armed conflict? So either by way of killing member of any one of this group, or by way of causing serious bodily or mental harm to the members of any one of this group, or deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about the physical destruction in whole or in part. Fourth one is imposing measures to prevent childbirth within the group. And the fifth one is forcibly transferring children of the group from one group to another group. So the first two is called physical genocide, and the fourth one, imposing measures to prevent childbirth, is called biological genocide, and the fifth one, forcible transferring of children, is called cultural genocide. So the genocide convention, which is given by this 1948 convention, how it came into effect, what is the outcome of this, what are the usage of this convention, is that it reflected in the year 1993 when there was a serious violation of human rights and humanitarian rights happened in former Yugoslavia between groups, between national group and the religious group. So Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, Croatia. So on these aspects, when there was an internal armed conflict between Serbians and the Bosnian Muslims or the Croatians, so a particular religious group was particularly attacked, targeted, and tried to be destroyed by the another group. So by the time, in a span of 4 to 5 months, there was a loss of several millions of particular race or particular religious group. So the permanent members, representatives of the former Yugoslavia, which means before separation of former Yugoslavia and after separation of former Yugoslavia, because we know that Yugoslavia is the combination of several states like Kosovo, Montenegro, Nigeria. So various like Croatia, that then Bosnia, then Herzegovina, then Serbia. So all these things before that. So during this separation, when there was a civil war, so these particular groups happened. So the representative approached the United Nations Security Council by way of invoking the Chapter 7 of the Charter of the United Nations, to go for a mechanism to prosecute and maintain the peace in this particular armed conflict. So Article 29 and Article 32 of the Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter, with that United Nations Security Council, for the first of its kind, established the first ever ad hoc international criminal tribunal for former Yugoslavia to prosecute and punish the perpetrators of serious violations of international humanitarian law within the territory of former Yugoslavia from 1 year period of time. So in that statute, the jurisdiction of the ICTY covers 4 important crimes. One is war crime, crimes against humanity, serious violations of Article 3 common to Geneva Convention, and this genocide. So these crimes against humanity and war crime are again going to speak about this armed conflicts and the violations of armed conflicts and the protection of people, those victims of this armed conflict. And Article 2 of the Statute of ICTR, International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, a South African country, in the year 1993 and 1994, from April to September, nearly 10 lakh people were being annihilated. Again, it is an internal conflict between two ethnic groups, Hutus and Tutsis, between minority and majority groups. So Tutsis attacking Hutus, Hutus attacking Tutsis. So due to this ethnical war, nearly in a span of 3 to 4 months, 10 lakh people from a particular racial group has been annihilated. Again, for the second time, UNSC came into force to settle down this armed conflict, not by way of peaceful settlement because it lost its value. All the peace accord has been thrown away by the armed conflict people, by the armed conflict group. So they want to go for a proper prosecution, proper redressal. They second time established this another criminal tribunal in Rwanda in 1994, which again consists of 3 important crimes. One is war crimes, crimes against humanity, Article 3 common to 4 Geneva Conventions, and this Genocide Convention. And now we are living in the era where we got the permanent International Criminal Court through this Rome Statute 2000. The effect started from 1997 through this International Law Commission, where they have been entrusted to go for the draft statute for the ICC. It gradually goes on until 1998. And in 1998, in the Rome Conference, they adopted the Rome Statute. for the Permanent International Criminal Court, and in 2000 we got this Rome Statute 2000 for the International Criminal Court. Again, now we got the recognized international crimes. What are all the international crimes? And now we got the international criminal law or criminal justice system, which is meant for three important factors. One is prevention of international crime, another one is universal jurisdiction, and third one is individual criminal responsibility, and fourth one is, most importantly, state responsibility also covers in it. So under this, Article 6 of the Rome Statute again speaks about this genocide. If you look into the definition of crime of genocide in these three statutes, ICTY, ICTR, and ICC, it is a verbatim of 1948 Genocide Convention, Article 2. So the only difference is that in Article 1 of the 1948 Genocide Convention, it states that it is to be prevented either during a time of peace or war. This is absent in all these statutes in either ICTY, ICTR, and ICC. Above this, we have SCSL, Special Court for Sierra Leone. I expected Dr. Kanda to be joined here, who was a member of Parliament of Sierra Leone. In 2000, there was a special court in Sierra Leone for the serious violation of this, and there's a special tribunal in Lebanon, and there was a extraordinary chambers in the court of Cambodia. So all these speaks about are the outcome of the failure, not a failure, where the UN or the High Commission of the Human Rights or the Security Council lost their hope in peaceful settlement of this conflict. Then they go for this prosecution through this judicial body. So in the sources of this war crime, which is the outcome of this armed conflict. So war crimes maybe in the a traditional way, armed conflict maybe in the contemporary way. So where we could get the sources of this armed conflict to be punish or prosecute the person who commits this crimes during this armed conflict, or we are getting it from 4 Geneva Convention, 12th August 1949, and its 2 additional protocols, 1977. So first Geneva Convention speaks about the protection of rights of the wounded and sick in the armed forces in the field of war. Second Geneva Convention speaks about the rights and the protection of.
Lakshmi, can
Yes, I'm going to
cut short your speech a little?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm completing. So this international and internal armed conflict 1977, which speaks about the protection of the victims during this armed conflict. So now we are in the Rome Statute. Even in Rome Statute, in the ICC also, so far 9 cases has been convicted on these war crimes, more exclusively, more particularly about Thomas Lubanga. And this Al-Bashir case is pending as because still he is in an absconded stage. And other Kamada case has also been there, where we started to punish the perpetrators of the serious violations of this international humanitarian rights during this armed conflict. So whenever there is a failure, or when we lose the hope of settling the disputes in a peaceful settlement manner or alternative dispute manner, so we have to go for this judicial setup, international criminal judicial system, to get justice for the victims of this violations. And we are having the live examples in our neighboring country, in Sri Lanka. Still we are expecting the justice for the Sri Lankan Tamil or for the Sri Lankan Sinhalese also, those who are all having the victims of these human rights violations also. So with this, this is how my topic is somehow different from that of the earlier presenters, where everyone are talking about the peaceful settlement. And as I am a student of the international criminal law, and I did my thesis on the research on this international criminal law, and particularly on this international crime, I focused on the consequences of failure of peaceful settlement of this armed conflict. No other go, we have to adopt this international judicial body to get justice. Thank you once again, Professor Dr. Sampath sir, for giving me this opportunity, for accommodating me along with this esteemed August body. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Your speech as well as your body language both went together, as well as you presented very well on the subject, because you were teaching every day about the subject, and also you know very well in depth about this matter. So that's why you given a bombarded for your all the information through this speech. Thank you. Now I am requesting another the great personality, advocate, conducting many training programs, lectures, get-togethers, meetings for the lawyers, for their judges post or district judge or magistrate post, many other positions. She's doing a lot of service for the advocate community. Mrs. Adilakshmi Logamurthy, one of the popular advocate of Madras High Court, will present a speech. Welcome, Adilakshmi. Come.
Thank you, sir.
Please maintain your time limit, because of now the time is 8:40, because we have to finish quickly because another two speakers are there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll just take 5 minutes, sir. I know I was the last to get into this great wagon because I was invited the last minute, since I went to meet sir on a personal note. And thank you for inviting for such a great event, the second International Conference on Peace and Conflict Resolution. The topic assigned to me today by Dr. V.R.S. Sampath sir is mediation and the family related issues. And this is a topic which doesn't need a day, or even we can speak for days together on this topic. But I'm going to take only 5 minutes. In a different platform, we can deliberate much on this. Family is the basic unit of a society. Today, we have been talking about the peace and the international peace. But without a peace in a family, this international peace will not really sound good. So that's why this topic has been assigned to me. And one other note, our Honorable Respected Chief Minister's felicitation note speaks about the safety of women and children. That's why Dr. Sampath sir would have invited me at the last minute to speak on this topic. The issues pertaining to women and children, predominantly in the family, the domestic front, is increasing day by day. Not only the issues on family right, divorce, or the issues like child custody. Today, the issue is the property issue, or the issue on the custody, the maintenance, and these kind of issues have disturbed so many families. Today, lot of crimes, murders, and suicides on the issues on family is being increased. That we get it from the Crimes Report Bureau's report. The statistics says that. So this is the time we have to look into the issue of conflict arising out of the family that has to be settled. There are three angles for a dispute. When there is a dispute, whether it's a commercial dispute or an industrial dispute or a dispute in a family or anywhere, three people are involved, or three situations are involved. There are people in relationship, people involved in this issue. And this issue is itself the problem. Because of the problem with the people, interstate or interreligion, interpeople, this issue, this dispute has to go through a process to get it settled. And in family issues, this inter-disputes between the families, and this dispute may be any sort of dispute, whether property or divorce or custody or maintenance or anything. And this has to go through a process. Today, we predominantly go to the process of litigation. One major difference between litigation and mediation is that in a litigation, you don't have a win-win situation, and litigation goes through the process of going through whatever happened before. Your judgment is based on the documents or the evidence you submit before the court, whatever happened prior. And mediation doesn't look into the past. It starts where the process of future. It doesn't look into the past. Every good mediator will say, forget the past. Let us think about the future. So to come to a settlement, come to a finality in the family dispute, and mediation is a better process than the litigation, which we all aim to get it out. Today, mediation is mushrooming. The mediation process in India, today the marriages are NRI marriages, international level. We have to look into the international scenario. Many marriages are into the international zone, and there are lots of conflicts happening in the international level. There are so many cases pending in different various courts as such. So looking into all these scenarios, the number one thing which we have to do in the mediation process is that this mushrooming of mediations should be streamlined. There should be a system in this mediation process. For that, there should be a specialized curriculum, inbuilt curriculum in the law courses, and also a special course for mediation has to come in. Today, the mediation is done by the lawyers who have been trained by the high courts. I'm also one of trained mediator. This kind of training should be a continuous process. If we have an educational system where mediation is part of the curriculum in the law schools, it is becoming one. In the present, students are learning mediation, but it has to be made into a specialized subject. Mediation is both an art and a science put together. So we have to understand the nuances of mediation. One side of the coin is that this mediation has to be streamlined, a proper licensing has to be given. The other side of the coin, awareness of mediation has gone to the public who are at the receiving hand of the mediation. The conflict is between the parties, and the parties have to come. They know it is cost effective. Mediation is a win-win situation, and mediation is a process. Everything said and done, there are people who disown mediation. They don't come forward to get into the system and understand what is mediation. Mediation is nothing new. This system has been with us. We Indians have been used to the joint family system, and there have been people in our own family, our great-grandfathers, our grandfathers have gone into the system in the family where the mediation had been done by the people in the family. Today, we are into the nuclear family system, and we are into individuality. Life is being taking a U-turn. So now we need the third parties coming into the picture. We have counselors, we have special counselor, we have psychologists, but there should be everything put to in. So I would opine there should be a specialized course for mediation. It is not only for the lawyers. Anyone who is interested can become a mediator. That should have been inbuilt in our curriculum. And one more thing, the awareness for mediation process, not only in the family matters, take the labor issues, take the commercial issues. The arbitration and mediation are in thing, but how far the dispute in the family, mediation is doing the best possible, but there should be takers for this mediation. So on this note, not taking much of the time, Albert Einstein sayings goes that in the middle of every difficulty lies an opportunity. So every family issue, if there is an issue, there is a problem, there is a difficulty, there will be an opportunity. And that opportunity will be created by a good mediator, a good mediation system. Today, the mediators and the system in our country is doing enormously well, and it is doing a very good job. But that has to go a little further in a very scientific approach, and there should be more mediators coming in, and there should be proper licensing for the mediation. It's not only the court-attached mediation, there should be private mediation centers, and mediation in all levels should be more encouraged. And on this note, thanking Dr. V.R.S. Sampath sir and all the dignitaries have joined in, and every one of you for giving your patient hearing for my lecture today. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I thank Madras Development Society and the organizers for inviting me. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Vijay Adilakshmi. Even though short notice, you've given a wonderful speech. I'm requesting Mr. Koshi Thomas from New York. Mr. Koshi Thomas. Where is Mr. Koshi Thomas? Okay. Koshi Thomas is a prominent advocate from New York. One second. Koshi is a prominent. Seeing his face. Mr. Koshi? Yes. Mr. Koshi is a prominent lawyer from New York, and also is a president of the president of the American Tamil Association in New York, as well as American Malayali Association in New York, and also is a prominent Democratic Party office bearer. He recently contested the election, and is always serving to wherever visiting from Chennai to New York. He is from Chennai, man. Now he's settled for the past 25 years in New York. I'm requesting Mr. Koshi Thomas present is a short note on this this conference.
Good evening, good morning, good day, greetings and best wishes from Koshio Thomas from New York. Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Honorable Law Minister of Tamil Nadu.
Please mute your mic because of someone disturbing. Please close your mic. Okay, sir. You can continue. Sir, பேசலாம். நீங்க ஹலோ உங்க மைக் வந்து அன்மியூட் பண்ணனும். Okay. It's okay? Okay.
Thank you. Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Honorable Law Minister of Tamil Nadu, Honorable Chief Justice Thiru S. Bhaskaran, Dr. V.R. Sampath, Honorable and very experienced and well-recognized lawyer, Madam Santa Kumari, my friend Bhartivan Shanmugam, distinguished guests and participants. I remember a Tamil song, Ingeyum Eppodum Santosham Ullasam. Thanks to the technology, we all have gathered under one aim, one umbrella, but from the different part of the world. This is really an achievement which has been done by Sattakadir and Madras Development Corporation under the leadership of Dr. V.R. Sampath and his team. Most of the efficient and effective points have already been said, and I don't want to repeat, but let me be very brief. Like everybody mentioned, peace at home, peace to the state. Peace to the state will bring peace to the nation. Peace to the nation will bring peace internationally to the whole humanity and the universe. I was attending this meeting here. On the side by, I was participating my church mass also, because today is a Sunday morning. What an advancement, what a pleasure, what an achievement, and also it's a blessing from the church.
Not only that, you are only person from United Nations building, and your house is very near.
I'm fortunate. I recollect my memory. I was fortunate. I'm always fortunate. When I was doing my second year, actually the third year in Madras Law College, we had a farewell get-together in Madras Law College. I believe it was in '82. And our Justice S. Bhaskaran was the chief guest at that time. So, we are living in a very golden era. Even though the COVID and Corona has brought down our achievements a little bit, but we will progress together. We will unite together and we will progress together. Even though I was born in Kerala, I grew up in Chennai, graduated from Madras Law College and Toro Law College here in New York. When we speak about international integration, my memory goes back to Tamilnadu, Tamilagam. Vandarai Vazhavaikum Tamilagam. That was the basic principle foundation brought into my mind. And that concept have led me to lead into various community and society, and which have brought me a position, an opportunity to represent international community here in New York. It's a blessing. As always, Dr. Sampath and his team has conducted various successful conferences, and this conference also has brought a fruitful achievement, promoting and requesting everybody to help at least one person, one family, one town, one state, one nation to promote peace and avoid conflict. Let's unite under United Nations, but request United Nations to do their service little more efficiently, and let each and every one of us do our part. Educate and sponsor at least one girl child. That is the need of the hour. That is the need of the world. Let's take that goal as our motto. Let's send the positive message through this conference to the person or people or organization we come across, to send a message to collaborate, compete peacefully, avoid conflicts, be accommodative, and be compromising for prosperity, for peaceful negotiations. Thank you all. This will be one more glorious, evergreen memory in my life. Best wishes, and thank you for Sata Kadir and Madras Development Corporation and its team. Thank you all. Best wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Toshi. It is a wonderful speech, even short and sweet, and you've given a lot of inputs about your lifestyle as well as your services. Thank you, sir. Now I am requesting Chair to say a few words before go to the vote of thanks. Justice Bhaskaran say few final word because of his chairing the session for the whole three-hour session. I'm requesting Justice Bhaskaran. Sir, unmute, sir, mic. Unmute. So, okay. You must unmute your mic, sir. Is it possible? Anybody there to help you?
I think you have that switch.
Yes, okay.
1 minute.
Okay, sir. You
Good
can
evening, good evening, sir. Good evening.
Conclude speech, then we can go for vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Good evening. It's a very nice evening. Wonderful speech delivered by brilliant people from across the world. People have touched upon all the subjects: United Nations, reconciliation, arbitration. Madam Justice Vimala was very elucidated in talking about arbitration, and then we had mediation also, and almost all the subjects which is essential to establish peace and also resolve conflicts have been discussed in a very detailed manner. And of course, everyone needed more time, but due to the shortage of time, we had to restrict them. Hopefully, Ms. Sampath will find some way out so that there can be lengthy sessions so that people can get benefited by the inputs, by the knowledge that people are sharing. So thank you very much for Sampath for arranging such a nice evening, nice program. Wish you all the best. Keep continue to have such programs. Hopefully, we'll have physical programs also if pandemic conditions permit. So we will have that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice. Actually, I want before going to the vote of thanks, I want to say a few words regarding the various things. The speakers, please send your speech, written speech by email to collect together and put it as publish as a book to circulate from various law colleges and other people. It will be very useful for them, number one. Number two, the next conference will be on November 13th and 14th in online and offline, both together, because physical and virtual conference. It will start on 13th morning, Saturday, and Sunday evening, 2 days conference, law and justice, various topics we selected, and also anybody interested to present a paper, they must contact for our satakadir1992@yahoo.co.in email, and we will include their name to give a speech only for 15 minutes. Don't take more time. Very, very important. Then only we can accommodate many people. We invited many international personalities this time. from USA, from Australia, from many other countries. It is a great experience for us. Last year, we started this conference because of Nelson Mandela centenary celebration. Nelson Mandela helped for our Tamil community in South Africa. More than 1 million Tamils are living there. So that is why we've taken a special initiative to conduct a centenary celebration in Chennai. Then we promised to install the statue of Nelson Mandela. It is also on the way. Apart from that, we established a special award in the name of Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela together for peace and conflict resolution. Last year, we given for 2 people, one individual, one institution. This year also, we selected a granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi and one of the popular university, Kenshaw University, State University from Atlanta. It is a great thing for us. It will go further every year. People will recognize us more in future also. Our Honorable Chief Minister kind enough to extend his greetings for this conference. When we approached his office and also in person, he immediately agreed to give for messages and greetings. Next day, we collected written greetings and we presented before you. This is all the great achievement for this year. Sattakadir functioning for the past 29 years is the only law journal publishing in Tamil language. People, government of Tamilnadu and many law colleges, high court and subordinate courts, all purchasing Sattakadir and using to develop their knowledge through Tamil language. So this is an opportunity to tell about our Sattakadir also. Madras Development Society registered in the year of 1981. More than 81 means 91, 2001, almost 40 years this organization functioning and doing a lot of seminars, conference, workshop time to time and publication. We used to organize once in a year for World Tamil Economic Conference. This year also we are planning to organize 8th World Tamil Economic Conference in the month of December. We can send an invitation to everyone. You can all participate in this conference. Now I am requesting Prem Rajakumari, the advocate from Madras High Court and also studied from Jindal Law University. She's one of the talented advocate. She's helping us time to time to prepare reports and conduct a conference. I'm requesting her to present her vote of thanks.
Before you go to vote of thanks, I just want to show this, Dr. Sampath. Your conference is really successful. At least I'm getting 30 notifications from people saying, just like more than 100 people already joined, you cannot join now. So congratulations, Dr. Sampath. See this, I'm constantly getting a message from people.
Thank you.
Sampath, one small comment, Sampath. I am Dr. Chokkalingam, cardiologist. Half a minute comment. Among the midst of all advocates and legal advisors, I am a Dr. Chokkalingam, cardiologist. And I'll give a small tip for all of you. When you're talking about the peace of international, global, everything, the peace must start with the individual peace of mind. Then everything extends to that. The moment if you lose your individual peace of mind, you ought to come to Chokkalingam with a heart patient. So please never compromise your peace of mind. Never compromise happiness. Your heart will work for 100 years and more than that. So we all will globally join together, keep ourselves healthy, and thereby make our society healthy. So please avoid hurry, worry, curry to get buried. The moment if your Goshi and others are smiling, we are all distancing from Chokkalingam and you will be my friend for minimum for 100 years. My best wishes, Sampath, for all your things I've been following. I'm very happy and to be here for this minute. Thank you very much, Sampath.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chokkalingam, your point has been highlighted by Arbitrator also earlier.
Please start. Okay.
Thank you, Parthiban.
Thank you. Thank you.
On behalf of the Second International Conference on Peace and Conflict Resolution Committee, I thank Dr. V.R. Sampath, President, Madras Development Society, for organizing this enlightening conference and delivering the welcome address. I thank our Honorable Chief Minister, Sri M.K. Stalin, for sending best wishes for the success of the conference. I thank Honorable Law Minister, Sri S. Raghupati, for delivering the inaugural address, who remarked that resolution is a faster tool in justice delivery system. I thank Honorable Justice Bhaskaran, Chairman, Tamilnadu Human Rights Commission, for chairing the session and delivering the special address on peace and conflict resolution, as well as the concluding note of this session. Thanks to Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam, Principal Solicitor and Barrister, High Court and Supreme Court of Australia, who shared her views on international mediation. I thank Honorable Justice Vimala, Member, State Law Commission of Tamil Nadu, for her insightful address on civil disputes and mediation and the amendment on institutional arbitration. We must agree with Justice Vimala that alternative dispute resolution, in particular arbitration, is one of the effective mode for speedy disposal of cases. I thank Dr. Joseph Bock, Director, School of Conflict Management and Peacebuilding, Kennesaw State University, United States, for sharing his thoughts that alternative dispute resolution can be a solution to resolve disputes between polarized nations. We look forward to a positive collaboration with the School of Conflict Management, Peacebuilding and Development at Kennesaw State University in the days to come. I thank Dr. Mukesh Kapila, Professor of Global Health and Humanitarian Affairs, University of Manchester, UK, for his address on peacekeeping in view of the United Nations Charter and that countries should have self-reflection on their national policies in the international paradigm. I thank Dr. Jabamale Vinanciarchi, former principal advisor to UNIDO, Vienna, for his edifying address on vision and action in the UN and his remarkable efforts in alleviating poverty in the international arena, and his genuine efforts in identifying and progressing the life of a victim of conflict, which was truly inspiring. I thank Mr. Parthiban Shanmugam, lawyer, Atlanta, US, for his informative address on hybrid warfare with emphasis on Belarusian economy and the conflict between European Union and Belarus. I must say this, I was instrumental in monitoring the trade policy of European Union for every quarter for almost 4 years from 2011 as a project at the Center for International Trade and Economic Laws, Jindal Global Law School, in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. Next, I thank Dr. Saravanan, Chairman, Central Law College Salem, for his address on the current issue of violation of human rights in Afghanistan after the Taliban takeover and the functioning of the United Nations in Afghanistan in promoting world peace. I thank Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Criminal Law, Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, who was my professor at School of Excellence in Law, for her outlook on genocide and its wide ambit in terms of the Geneva Convention in relevance to armed conflict. I thank Mrs. Adi Lakshmi Logamurthy, Advocate, Madras High Court, for her opinion on mediation in family-related issues, that mediation is a better process in dispute resolution as it aims at a win-win situation. I thank Mr. Koshi O. Thomas, lawyer, New York, and President of the American Tamil Association, New York, for his valuable inputs on peace and peaceful negotiations in this conference. Thank you, Dr. Chokkalingam, cardiologist, for your ideas on peace of mind. Most importantly, special thanks to recipients of Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela International Award on Peace and Conflict, Ms. Ella Gandhi, the granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi, and the institutional recipient, School of Conflict Management, Peacebuilding and Development of Kennesaw State University, Georgia, US. Last but not the least, thanks to all the viewers and participants of this intellectual conference, without whom this conference would not have been a success. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. You've given a wonderful vote of thanks. You covered everything. Thank you. Because only one final point, because of the beginning, we faced some technical problem with our computer. So that's why we delayed for 5 minutes. Otherwise, the conference overall very success, I think. I think you all voted for that. Thank you. Thank you, sir.